What we're gonna do right here is go back into time.
Previously on the Rich Eisen Show.
Jeff Van Gundy back here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Gobert acknowledged his reckless acts, but we have to remember how young these people are and how immune they believe themselves to be. He should have and could have done it better, but he can help to educate now. I thought his apology struck just the right tone. He didn't try to dodge how cavalier he was with the whole situation and wants to help.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now.
Y'all ready for this?
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
If we have the knowledge and we have the power.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
We are very dependent on each other. How you behave will influence my health. You should think about it that you're doing it not just for yourself, but for the people around you, the people you love, and, sort of the global community.
Let's all do our part.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
And stay calm.
Today's guests from NBC Sports, Peter King, Las Vegas Raiders voice, Brent Musburger, and now it's Rich Eisen.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. We are live here on this Monday in Los Angeles on March 16th, 2020. And, man, when we signed off on Friday, I signed off by saying I don't know what Monday will bring. And here's what Monday's bringing. Hopefully, wherever you are, hunker down with your family or hunker down. If you can stay home, please stay home, because it is so crucially important to make sure that we get through whatever we're still gearing up to get through. There is no playbook on how to broadcast a show like this in a pandemic. And we are, as always, doing our best, and we'll always tell you what's on our hearts and our minds. And good to see you, Chris Brockman. Everybody
doing,
feeling
pal?
Well in your household?
Everyone's A-okay.
Mike Del Tufo,
Good to see you,
sir. Good to see you. Now, last we saw you was last Wednesday.
Yes.
Because Thursday you were doing the Big East
Went in
broadcast,
normal.
right, for Fox Sports.
Yep.
And you went in as normal, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the first half of the first game.
So, like, your guys are leaving, we're done, the game's called, and you're out.
You're done for the day.
And then they were, like, literally at the same time, tournament's canceled.
Well,
wow.
I know.
It was surreal.
It's just, and it's kind of crazy because there is sports news. And we'll get to that in a second, because this is just the first of two shows I'm doing today. This Rich Eisen Show, and then at 4 Eastern Time, I'm going to be on NFL Network's coverage of the new league year coming your way on Wednesday. It is opening up for business. The NFL 2020 free agency period is going down. The franchise tag window has just shut down, and the free agency legal tampering window opened up as we came on the air. And last-minute franchise tags have been in, and we'll get to that in a second. I just want to start by saying this. Man, I hope everybody's out there feeling okay. And man, I want everybody out there who's feeling okay to not sit there and think this is okay for me to go out and live my life as I see fit. There's a reason why many states across this great country of ours is passing rules like Governor Cuomo did in New York, Governor Newsom did a couple days ago here in California, and I might be leaving out your state. I'm just knowing because I heard Governor Cuomo coming in saying that he has, along with the governors of the states of New Jersey and Connecticut, coordinated, because there is no mandate from the federal government right now on what everybody, all 50 states, should do. So states are piecemealing together in the same way that the sports world began piecemealing things together, from Rudy Gobert testing positive to coronavirus and the NBA shutting down, and then the Ivy League the day before that canceling its tournament, and then the presidents across the NCAA coming to their own conclusions, and then the NHL eventually a couple days later coming to its own conclusions, and the PGA, and then NASCAR, tennis world, men's and women's tennis, everybody coming to their own conclusions eventually to shut everything down. There's a reason why in most states of this union, gyms, movie houses, theaters, I just went really old school
I
right
was just
there.
gonna
I don't
say,
know why
Rich.
I went talkies on you right there.
Movie house.
There's a reason why bars and restaurants are shutting down and why perhaps you should right now order in from your favorite restaurant if you feel comfortable with somebody else preparing your food, or even if you aren't uncomfortable of that, buying a gift card from your favorite restaurant so funds can be funneled into that business while they potentially get some sort of economic shortfall. And then when this whole nightmare is over, and it will end one day. We don't know when, but it's going to end one day. Civilization was not brought to its knees by smallpox or polio. One day when we all get through this together, because we're going to do the right thing together. We're going to do the right thing together. Eventually, all of us need to come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter if there's St. Patrick's Day, and it doesn't matter if somebody's saying, hey, I'm feeling good, let's go to a bar, or if it hasn't been shut down in your state. Stay home. Stay home. Stay home. And as long as we're healthy, we're going to give you an option between 12 and 3 here on this radio station in your neck of the woods, or you want to watch us, we're live on YouTube. I'm wearing a very nice purple shirt for the 454 crew in the wormhole right now.
Yo,
If you-
purple
if you-
paid 8-1 today.
Is that
Rich.
right?
Yeah,
No patches?
yeah.
No patches?
No patches parlay. Sorry.
Okay, I'm
Sorry,
wearing
guys.
I'm wearing something, a checkered purple shirt from what might be like the Bob Kraft collection from back in the day. Like that's what I got going on here.
No pink power tie,
As
though.
long as I'm feeling fine, and we're all feeling fine in my household, and we're all comfortable in my household of me leaving the house, and I just get in my car and I come here, and I'm more than 6 feet away from you. You guys are more than 6 feet away from each other.
We're good space.
I'm serious. I called the NFL Network. I'm like, hey, I'll do the show, but I've never said this in my hosting career. Stay away from me. But we all need to know that we don't know stuff other than the fact that we're seeing around the country. So please, everybody, if you know somebody that's not taking this seriously, if you know somebody that's out still on a vacation and figuring, I'll just finish this thing up. One place that they're not going to finish it up is Las Vegas, Nevada, which essentially is just shutting it all down.
I mean, it's literally a desert now.
And it foretold what the NFL has announced this morning when the MGM company that handles most of the casinos on the Strip, including the Bellagio, said, we're done. We're shutting the casinos, and we're not taking reservations before May 1st. And that includes the NFL draft between the 23rd and 25th of April. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, I guess that's what's going to happen here. And from the 23rd, 25th of April, they were planning on shutting down the Strip, part of the Strip, and letting you walk on a huge expanse to the stage near Koval. Anybody who knows Las Vegas, Nevada very well. Well, that's not happening now. The NFL announcing today, in consideration of current information related to COVID-19 and guidance from medical experts such as the CDC, the NFL is going to modify the 2020 NFL draft plans. There will be no public events. And looks like I'm working from the LA studios because the draft's going to go on. The draft will go on. And we'll televise it, and I'm sure ESPN will as well. And we'll just be in our Los Angeles studios just like 2005, right?
Yes.
That was the
First
last
one.
time that we did not go to an NFL draft and broadcast it for the NFL Network.
Can we envision what this is going to be like? Is it just going to be Roger in a room announcing picks?
I imagine it'll be Roger in a room announcing picks. Yeah.
Wow.
There might be, enough people socially distant from one another in the room,
Right.
less than 50, because the CDC has said no gatherings of more than 50 people in the United States for the time being. So there you have that. And again, we've mentioned this before, which is why I was so upset about social media tipping picks,
Yeah.
because it is a television event. Obviously, that's what helps put a roof over my head, is broadcasting a draft. It's a television event. People want to watch it on television and be surprised. The commissioner needs to be the Paul Revere of this to let you know who's coming. You know,
reference.
One if by quarterback, two if by one if by offense, two if by defense. You know, like literally,
Nice.
who's coming to this? Who's coming to the NFL?
Nice.
He needs to be the one to announce it.
The draftees are coming. The draftees are coming.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But it can technically be done like your fantasy draft.
Sure.
Point and click
Yeah.
on
Well,
something.
not like
and-
my fantasy draft.
Yeah, exactly.
No, exactly.
Like an actual fantasy draft.
Right? So it can technically be done that way, and it's still going to be done that way. And the fact that somebody calls in their picks and
Our team's
and they announce
going to still have war rooms.
Of course, they still have to be there, but I imagine they'll cut down the number of people in there. I have no idea. It's 5 weeks from now. This thing about we have no idea what it's going to look like 5 weeks from now. None, because and this is the thing that is particularly for me, and I'm sure for all of you out there, particularly jarring about this. That it seems like things are going in light years, in just minutes. Hours feel like years in terms of how things are developing, how fast things are going, how not fast enough things are going. And that's what I think is jarring and freaking so many of us out, and why doing a show like this today is weird. I'm not going to lie to you. We're all here, and because we love doing it, and we feel like if we're well enough, and let's do it. And perhaps you're sitting at home, hunkered down, and listening or watching YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show. And as long as we're feeling well, and we are literally, like TJ is about 20 feet away from me, Cisco's about 20 feet away from me, you guys are about 10 feet away from me. I think you're about 6 feet away from each other right there.
Easy.
I'm a
Okay.
good 8 feet from
All
you.
right, so we're doing the right thing here, and we're washing our hands. And all right. But in terms of just unease, and in terms of wondering where the enemy is and when it might come, and how out of body it is to feel different in this country, and how our way of life may not be the same again, and we're wondering, will we ever be the same way again, and when can we get back to being that way again? This feels like 9/11 to me. It really does. And I totally know it's different between terrorism and a pandemic, but I'm just talking about the way we're all feeling as Americans right now. And amidst all of that, when I did a show on SportsCenter on 9/12, the night of 9/12, Stuart and I did the overnight SportsCenter on the 12th of September 2001. I remember we looked at each other and we're like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this?
There weren't any sports that night, right?
Well, there was a lot of news. By the way, hell of a lot more news today in just the normal way of doing things, and we'll get to that in the NFL shortly. But the concept that night was who was on the planes, who was in the Pentagon, anybody related to the sports world, and when is sports, what is sports going to do? When are they going to shut down? And Stuart and I looked at each other, we're like, what the hell are we doing? And many of us feel that same way today. But we hope, wherever you are, we can all stick together, stay home, and figure a way out of this together with compassion and love and empathy and everything that can bring us together as people, even though we are literally looking at each other like, do you have something? And we need to be socially distant. And it's going to be very difficult when we're day 30, maybe day 60, day 90 of all of this, how to handle it. But we have to get through it. And we will. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on the show. All right, we'll take a break, and the franchise tag players are all in. We have the names. What does it all mean? And what does the Tom Brady story, how has that changed over the last 24, 48 hours with the signing of Ryan Tannehill? Oh, yeah, and by the way, we have labor peace through 2030. Lots to talk about right there. And how you feel about it. You're out there listening to us, again, watching us on our stream, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. We'll chime in, and we'll talk about it, and we'll go down that wormhole. That's all next right here on this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. Don't go anywhere. And, by the way, Peter King will join us in the middle of hour number 2 to talk about all of this NFL news, the CBA passing. How did it come to pass that the NFL decided, along with the Players Association, to keep everything going for the new league year? Is it possible that even with all of these news and signings coming, that they will still push the new league year in the next 48 hours? And then Brent Musburger will join us to talk about, what is going on in Las Vegas, Nevada. Excited about the draft, excited about, obviously, March Madness and the NBA and NHL playoffs. There's a lot of dollars and cents in that great community that is not going to be coming in because sports has essentially shut down. Brent Musburger, still to come. Peter King, still to come. And your phone calls at 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Excited to have conversations with you here throughout this 3-hour edition of the Rich Eisen Show. Now, if you want to go outside, Susie and I took the kids out to go on a hike.
Nice.
A nice head clearer, okay?
It was great. I went on a nice long walk yesterday.
And I don't know if golf courses are still staying.
Oh, they're open.
Okay. Because I guess when you're outside, it's not a very dense area, right? I mean,
if the way I hit the ball, I'm nowhere near you because I'm all over
I know,
the court.
exactly.
I'm perfect.
Nice.
You're safe.
Nice, Mike.
So if anybody's out there, and then again, one day we will all be back out there again. The Callaway Maverick irons is something for you to consider because the Callaway Maverick driver has been designed using artificial intelligence, new materials to completely maximize distance and forgiveness. Callaway is putting all of that in every single one of their irons, Whether it's the low-spin Maverick Sub-Zero or the ultra-forgiving Mavericks Max, artificial intelligence has optimized every Maverick driver and is doing the same thing with their irons as well. New distance is out there. Tee to green, from tee to fairway, and then fairway to green. Use the Maverick irons from Callaway. Check it out. The new Maverick irons and driver today at CallawayGolf.com. Callaway are the kings of distance. All right. We're now on our YouTube stream. Howard, you want to walk me through what's going on our in the wormhole, as we've called it now, right? Chris over there?
Yeah, no, everyone's excited we're on. Everyone's talking about vitamins this morning.
Okay.
Monday vitamins. And some questions about the CBA. People didn't know that it was for 10 years. So that's a good thing.
Is that right? Hey, folks, it's for 10 years. 2030 was not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
2030. Normally, I would be particularly...
well, there's still 1 year left, right? So...
that's why it's 2030. That's why I'm talking 2030.
Yeah.
2020 is the last year
expiration of the last one.
Right, and then there's 10 more years. But because it's not the last year of the collective bargaining agreement, technically, the rules that are in place are different than what they would have been had there been no collective bargaining agreement passed. And from based what I can tell, and I'll repeat this when the radio audience returns as well, from what I can tell, the 17th game is not happening this coming year.
Right. That's contingent on a new TV deal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the playoff expansion is coming in 2020.
That is correct, sir.
Are you surprised it passed?
You know what I'm surprised, but let's
save this for the radio show.
for the radio show too. Yeah. Yeah, I got some thoughts on that.
I was shocked at the number of players who did not vote.
Let's save it.
Okay. That was an alarming number to see that.
Oh, my word. Yeah, I think people would want to talk a little sports. And I know I came on the air and went public health. But this is life, man.
Yeah, we're a live show.
This is life. This is life.
This is what's happening.
We got 3 hours. We're going to be in there, and we're thrilled that people are watching us out there.
Yeah, people are glad in the wormhole that we're still on.
Well, good.
So that's good.
Again, as long as I feel fine. And I don't know about you. And this is the thing, again, because there's no testing out there.
No.
And I know there are some communities where there's drive-through testing and others that aren't. And you don't know where you can get. And they're definitely, at this point in time, hoarding tests. There's no question in my mind. Are you feeling like sometimes you get a little scratch in the throat? Like, do I have
it's
it?
100%. Yeah, it's like
yeah. And then you just gotta sometimes put
Calm
the
down.
phone down, man.
Yep. You got to calm down.
Make sure you clean your phone a couple times a day, too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was reading that that's a very
Clean your phone.
phone is very.
So I'm just sitting there thinking, do I have it? Do I not?
Well, I'm looking
and what
at
I've got,
other people,
I've got
is crazy.
on my phone, a bunch of articles that I can just go to of science-based. This is what the first signs usually are. This is what the second signs usually are. This is what the third signs usually are. Also symptoms, percentages of people who have had it. And then, you hear people get through it. And then you hear people aren't. And
People
just
are being
go
nicer
crazy.
out when you go out, too, I noticed.
Now, where are you going out? I thought you
Dude,
said
I don't
you're not
know,
going
man.
out.
Supermarket.
Huh?
At Costco a couple
Stay
days
away.
ago, this
Well,
woman was
supermarket.
cursing
Costco's
someone out.
crazy.
Are you serious?
Costco's
yeah.
crazy. The
What was
Costco's
she-
crazy.
What happened?
I'm trying to remember, but there was a lot of F-bombs. This one lady was not pleased.
See, that's.
I mean, tensions are
Tensions are high.
Tensions are high.
Tensions are high. But Costco, other stores, I think, too, placing limits on how much people can buy of
Oh yeah.
certain
How about
products.
that dude? Did you read the article?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
17,000.
The guy. Well, he donated. The guy had
Donated.
he went
hoarded.
He hoarded and stockpiled.
Was trying to sell them on Amazon.
17,000 bottles of
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then the New York Times did a story on him
And then Twitter
took
found-
photographs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And somebody used the photograph on Twitter to try and GPS where his place was.
they found it.
And the Attorney General of Tennessee went and got it.
Oh, that's good.
And they opened up
I
his
didn't see that.
storage locker and took it
Fantastic.
all.
Oh my God! All right, we're back in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. And we are thrilled to be here as long as we are healthy and hale and hearty and practicing everything that we should be. And we all are staying home, only going out to go get groceries, then coming back in, maybe getting some fresh air and going back home. And as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to the NFL Network, where basically I'm going to... I'm going to wear a regular suit. If I could show up like, Walter White cooking like Heisenberg, I would do that. But I'm going to just show up as Eisen. I'm just going to show up as Eisen.
You should actually do that to start the show as a
No,
bit.
I know.
How do you think that would go over?
Poorly. Poorly. The whole bit thing is, and again, we're trying to,
we're trying.
Right. So long story short is we are here, and Peter King will call in, Brent Musburger will call in, and it's just, again, when you're on your phone, and I try to, Susie and I, we can go on our phones, we can go down a wormhole. We're like, did you see this? Did you see that? Yeah. The whole world is falling down. You put your phone down and just try and be present for your kids and yourself and your sanity, whatever. But it's just a little strange when, you're looking at your phone, and amidst all of these stories about what is going on in the world and what needs to go on in this country so we don't avoid some of these awful situations going on in hotspots around the world, Kirk Cousins has signed a 2-year contract extension, and Derrick Henry's been franchise tagged, and it's just okay. And some of it it's jarring, but it's relieving, obviously, that we can have this stuff to talk about, and let's do it. It all started with me waking up on Sunday morning, putting the phone on and getting the news that the collective bargaining agreement had passed by a slim margin. What, about 60 votes, right?
60 votes.
And the thing that really surprised me when I saw that was how half the league is literally not happy. Half the players are not happy about this. And just a little more than half the league is happy about it. Interestingly enough, it's so close, or not close enough in the minds of some people, that it's almost like the revenue split, like 48.8 to 51.2, and if I'm a player who didn't want this thing to pass and it did, I'm particularly pissed at the 500 players who did not vote at all, who were not even bothered, to say yay or nay when it's electronic. It's right in the palm of your hand. It's, and I'm wondering how many of the players who did not even vote on it were voting on like Twitter polls instead. I mean, it's that simple from what I was told.
Or out on vacation, what? Who knows?
I couldn't believe that.
20% of the players couldn't bother to vote on their next 10 years.
Right. And so what this means is there's labor peace to 2030. What this means is the NFL will now go to television partners, although right now coronavirus and a pandemic happening, I don't know how that might affect things. Still, I'm assuming the NFL will be like, look, at some point there's going to be a vaccine to this and we'll all be back to business. And when that happens, there's a 17th game and there's 2 extra playoff teams. 17th game won't happen until it gets triggered by a new television deal, best I can tell. And, however, the 7th playoff teams are coming. I don't like it. I'll be honest with you. I don't like it. And I'm a traditionalist. And I know that for my business, when I'm talking about this stuff on this show, wherever that may be when that happens, and this show or NFL Network on game day morning when there's 2 extra playoff games, maybe one on a Monday night. Although I don't know how I'm hearing that extra playoff game, the 6, because there will be 6 wild card games now instead of 4,
right,
that the 5th or the 6th playoff game will mean a Monday nighter. I don't know how you do that and then have somebody come back and play their next playoff game on a Sunday. I mean,
right,
that's a short week. How do you do that?
Yeah, but even with expansion, Rich, we know that the early window on Saturday will be the
Houston Texans versus whoever.
Yeah.
Right. And but that means I'm thinking there's either going to be a early Sunday window game at 1:00 as opposed to 4, or
are we going to get 3 Saturday games?
You have to. 3 Saturday games and either 3 Sunday games or 2 Sunday games and a Monday. You have to. We're
2 Sunday games and a Monday
Sundays.
sound pretty good, right?
I know, but if you're that Monday and you got to come back around and play that next Sunday
you
against
get
the
your
team
week.
that's coming off a bye?
Yeah.
What? So somebody hasn't played a week before and you play a short game? Or you're playing against
can't
somebody
do that,
or
but-
you're playing against somebody that just played on a Saturday who got an extra day of rest? And then, I mean,
I say 3 Sundays.
I guess though there's got to be some teams that play a Sunday and then a Saturday game.
That's true.
From
You'd be
wild
sure.
card to divisional. That's got to
I'm
have
sure
happened
that's
in
happened.
the past.
It's happened. You play Sunday, you play Saturday.
But again, last year is a perfect example. Sometimes the 7 seeds don't deserve to make it. You don't want to see them either.
The Steelers shouldn't have made the playoffs
with
last
Duck
year.
Hodges,
Let's be honest.
would have made it.
They would have
and
lost by 50 to the Chiefs.
Exactly. Whereas Rams at Packers, now you're talking. All right, now you're going to go register. Right. And some years you're going to get 2 types of Packers games, and some years you're going to get 2 types of Duck Hodges versus the Chiefs. And would the Chiefs have won the Super Bowl this year if they had to play an extra game? Man, that bye week will be so much more important, but I just don't know if you want to see, certainly when there's a 17th game, 7 and 9, 2 7 and 9 teams battling it out for the right to be 8 and 9 and be the 7th seed, right? Or that 6 and 9 team after week 16, because you got your bye week stuff to put in there. That 6 and 9 team battling it out with that plucky 5 and 10 team that's still alive for that 7th and final playoff spot, right? I mean,
Right. No, right.
and what would that mean for trade deadlines? Again, that's for stuff down the road. Now then, that happened Sunday. Then the franchise tags started to be applied. And when
Or slapped.
and then we'll find out. That's right, because again, they're applied to players that don't mind it. They're slapped upon players that mind it. Peter King's going to join us, and I think he wrote about how the Players Association were steadfast in keeping this new league year running, even though many of the decision makers are not terribly happy about it, because as Jason Lockenfora pointed out last week, that you're signing these players to multiple millions of dollars of a multiple year contract, and who's going to conduct the physical? Now, many of these players are within an hour and a half driving distance of whatever facility that they might be able to go to. But if you're in an off-season home in Arizona and you're signing with Carolina, is it appropriate to have that player drive to Arizona and have the Cardinals do the physical and pass that information on to the Carolina Panthers, as is being discussed apparently? All that said, Ryan Tannehill has hit it, and he hit it big. Ryan Tannehill absolutely crushed it to the tune of 9 figures, and this, to me, proved 2 things. 1, hard work pays off. Keep your head down. Don't let anything make you down. Like, say, the team that drafted you and the coach that, didn't eventually believe in you, or a new regime comes in and says, we don't want you here. We're, as a matter of fact, going to trade you for a 3rd-day draft choice and pay part of your salary to get you out of here to your new team, which has its own 2nd overall draft choice sitting there. That guy, you need to beat him out. And you need to, as Tannehill told us when he called into our show, when you show up, call Matt Moore to ask him, how do you handle being somebody who hardly gets any snaps in practice? How do you handle sometimes being the scout team quarterback? How do you handle all of that? Well, Tannehill handled it. And again, just proves, don't take no for an answer and get it done with your own hard work, nose to grindstone, and you get your opportunity, go crush it. That's what proved number 1. Proved to me number 2. We know absolutely nothing about the Tom Brady free agency scenario. Absolutely nothing. And the rabbit holes that we would go down because we were desperate to see if anything meant anything. The famed Mike Vrabel, Julian Edelman FaceTime next to Tom Brady, in between Tom Brady and Jimmy Fallon at a Syracuse, North Carolina game, which is, in just the sports world, the most bizarre sports Mad Lib in recent days. Jimmy Fallon, Julian Edelman, Tom Brady are at a Syracuse, North Carolina game in the Carrier Dome, and Mike Vrabel FaceTimes in. I mean, there's a lot of proper name, adjective blanks that are being filled in there. We're like, oh, my God, here comes Mike Vrabel. He must be calling Brady to see how he's doing. Titans are in the mix. This contract that they did with Ryan Tannehill could not have been done overnight. So either the Titans were interested in Brady potentially when that FaceTime took place, and then they realized that this was just not going to work out.
Or
they were never interested in him.
Exactly.
They never twitched in that direction. So what happens with Brady now? Now you're already hearing, well, the Titans are out. That removes his leverage. And his leverage is going to be, well, he's not going to Bucs. He's not going to the Chargers. Patriots now look like the best option. He's not going anywhere. Who the hell knows? We have no idea what's happening. Right now, Wes Don Yee, his agent, is technically able to call anybody he wants and talk to anybody he wants about his client. And anybody out there in the other 31 teams, or 30, because we're assuming Ryan Tannehill is signed, sealed, and delivered, as we expect. They have the right to call Tom Brady and Don Yee and say, well, what are you interested in? What would it mean if we did blow up our situation? Or what would it mean if we did decide to not draft somebody and go here? What would it mean if we did hire you and we did, our plan is fully intended to sign somebody in free agency, or to be there just in case Tom is, a 43-year-old. What would it mean if we hired you and our full intention is to draft somebody? All of that's happening right now. We have no earthly idea.
Or was there even a huge market for Tom Brady in the first place?
There still could be a very robust market. We don't know. We honestly do not know, because anybody that is interested in him what would you say, 75%, 3 out of every 4 teams that are interested in him would have to blow something up? And if it doesn't happen, what happens with Derek Carr if it comes out that the Raiders were interested? What does it mean if the Bucs' interest is fully bloomed out and known? What happens if they decide to just stick with Jameis Winston instead? I guess Jameis would be happy with it if he's making a ton of money. He was not franchise tagged, Jameis Winston.
He was not. Rich, one thing, of course,
by the way,
no sports. We're looking for things to gamble on. Tom Brady's location still on the board on offshore accounts, Rich. You know who the favorite is now?
Costa Rica?
Costa Rica, not the favorite to sign Tom Brady. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the favorite to sign Tom Brady.
I thought you mean where is he now, like literally on the planet.
Yeah.
I
honestly thought
no. You can actually bet where he literally is right now based on his next Instagram post. Okay.
Yeah, Ian Rappaport said Brady is back from Costa Rica.
Okay, good news.
But the Bucs are now the favorite at -150. Patriots +110.
Okay, let's go to the phone lines right here. As the free agency franchise tags, we already knew about Hunter Henry, Matt Judon of the Ravens, who, by the way, what a great move, trading a 5th-round pick for Calais Campbell. We knew Yannick Ngakoue was franchise tagged. The Redskins' Brandon Scherf franchise tagged. Bud Dupree was franchise tagged today. Not surprised about that, other than the fact that Steelers rarely use that. But man, he's so good. They got to figure that one out. AJ Green franchise tagged. Hey everybody, Bengals go out and just remind everybody we beat to our own drum. All right, your guy. Left guard Joe Tooney has been franchise tagged.
I saw that.
And here's another interesting franchise tag. Dak Prescott.
Hey now.
Dak Prescott. An exclusive franchise tag. You know what that means? It's going to cost you $1 million first-round draft choices to come get him if you want to sign him. And it is just insane. It is just insane how this has not been headed off at this pass, how this has not been headed off in any way, shape, or form, how the Cowboys have not signed this guy to a long-term contract yet. It is just nutty, as Kirk Cousins now is under contract for 2 more years to the tune of $66 million. That's $33 per. So in other words, what Dak apparently has on the table for more than just 2 years, Kirk Cousins says, I'll take for 2. He now has made, over the span of 2 one-year deals, I guess, and 1 3-year deal, and this 2-year deal, he has made a record $11 billion.
Yeah.
$11 billion, and I looked it up. That's a record.
That's a record.
$11 billion.
Right. It was Kenny Mayne. Not in one game. That would be a record.
Now then, look, the Cowboys, when you place a franchise tag on somebody, it is just to make sure they don't hit the free agent market right now. He belongs to your roster, and you cannot sign him with the exception of having the team forfeit multiple first-round picks. So it's not just a ton of money that you'd have to give this player, but also a lot of your draft capital on top of it, which defeats the purpose of signing a free agent. So basically, Dak's not going anywhere. They have to the middle of July, unless that construct gets pushed back due to the pandemic, that July 15th, they have that time to sign Dak. But the fact that they have not figured out a way to get him signed, sealed and delivered, because one believes that we will soon hear shortly, in short order, the Philadelphia Eagles will have signed Byron Jones to $1 gajillion himself, and the Cowboys couldn't franchise him. You can't pay everybody, I guess is what Jerry's been telling everybody, but you can kind of keep as many people as you possibly can if you head this thing off of the pass, which what the Eagles did with Carson Wentz and the Rams did with Jared Goff. If you believe in the guy, go ahead and figure out a way to do it. Does take 2 to tango. It's no layup from what I heard. So I can't believe that we did get to the point that Dak has been franchise tagged, which is worth about $27 million.
You think he plays this year under the franchise tag?
Well, I'm looking at the non-exclusive rights franchise tenders for the franchise pairs. It could be could be 30 to 33 million bucks, according to Todd Archer. Very good. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And the annual value for Ryan Tannehill is $29.5 million. I mean, this is the going rate here, folks. Which is why Jimmy G, just to bring it all full circle here, why Jimmy G at $25 million per is an absolute discounted rate. Think about it. Tannehill's making 29.5. Cousins, who everybody believes, is who Shanahan wants anyway in San Francisco. I guess you could keep Jimmy G there at $25 million per. And then when Cousins is available 2 years from now, you can go get him if you want to really play out that sort of parlor game. But he's not going to San Francisco, and Jimmy G is dirt cheap compared to what we're talking about right here.
Exactly.
So you want to read into all of that. Why would they want to go? And then you'd have to figure out what you're doing in your quarterback position again 2-3 years from now. Why would you do that, except for the fact that you think Tom Brady can put 1 to 2 more trophies in your case?
And they were 7 minutes from the Super Bowl.
Winning it.
Winning.
Oh, by the way, Derrick Henry was also franchise tagged as well. Non-exclusive, everybody. Let me look that one up. I got that right here. That's $10.2 million, which is less than what
Zeke,
Mr. Elliott is making in Dallas. I keep putting my glasses on and taking them off because, again, I'm trying to read numbers and then just look at you at the screen right here. Just in case any the folks in the radio are hearing, the click of the glasses on the table. Tyrann Mathieu tweeting out, "Damn, they paid the QB, but the RB who made the QB job 75% lighter, he don't get no love. Boy, it's cold. Thank God that man comes from a good family." So Tyrann Mathieu about the Titans obviously paying Tannehill, but not Derrick Henry. For the moment. See how they put that all together. Phone lines are lit. We'll take your calls at 844-204-RICH. That's next here on this edition of The Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH. All right, everybody. Hi.
Oh, this is off.
I want to talk about this later in the news, but did you see who's back in college basketball?
Pitino and Iona.
Oh, baby.
Rick Pitino's back.
It's been 20 years since that Celtics rant.
Oh,
The
really?
Athletic did a nice kind of oral history of the rant.
Is that right?
Yeah.
20 years since Larry Bird's not walking through that door, huh?
Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and if they did, they're old. What a disaster that was.
I know he wasn't cut out for that.
He traded Chauncey Billups after 50 games.
I know he wasn't cut out for that, but he was right to tell the Celtics fans, it's over. Larry Bird's not walking through that door.
Yes,
I can't believe Iona.
but-
Would you look this up for me? I think Iona was Jimmy V's first job, or Jimmy V.
Okay.
Jimmy V went from Iona to Louisville. I mean, Jimmy V went from Iona to NC State.
All right, stand by.
So,
He went from Iona to Bucknell. So he was
right?
at Iona. Oh, yes, you're right. Iona from 75 to 80, NC State 80 to 90.
Yeah, man. So,
Good pull by you right there.
I just remember. Well, I mean, look, I'm from the area. I'm from New York.
Gosh, Jimmy
I mean,
V.
Pitino when he got started, man, at Providence
Yo.
with Billy Donovan,
No-name team took him to the
was
Final Four.
a total, absolute idol of mine and anybody who lived in New York, because he had that accent. What he
That
did in
dude
the
could
Big
coach,
East,
man.
because I mean, what he did in the Big East, this was
6,
all right,
8,
Eight.
like
Well, I mean,
I'm
loaded.
just saying minimum.
And just
Syracuse-
the players
Right,
that went
it was
to
amazing.
that played in the Big
Syracuse,
East.
Georgetown, St. John's, Providence would be on the outside looking in. Certainly when you throw in Villanova and then you throw in Connecticut.
UConn, yeah.
And then, BC might raise its hand
Yep.
every now and then.
Seton Hall was good for
Pitt.
a little.
You know, Seton Hall,
man.
The
right?
80s
The
into
Hall.
the early 90s.
Dude, Big East was the
It
best.
was amazing, yeah.
And then Providence one year. Was that 87? Will you look that up too?
I think it was right before Seton Hall.
It was 87, I think.
Because Villanova won, Providence won.
Pitino.
87. Yeah.
87.
Yeah.
Look at me, man. Spotting
Good job,
dimes like
Rich.
Costanza. That's what happens when you sit at home in quarantine with your children.
You're looking up stuff.
By the way, 2 Big East teams in the Final Four that year, Syracuse and Providence. That
right.
was the Keith Smart game.
Q's, they were great. I mean, they were.
Derek Coleman misses 2
Maybe.
free throws.
I refuse to acknowledge they're in the ACC. I just refuse to.
It's still
Now
I know.
that's an old.
It's still super weird.
I do not think Syracuse is an ACC
Dude,
team.
the best day of the week was Big Monday.
Big Monday.
Like,
I would do
come
so many.
on.
I would do sports centers between the Big East, Big Monday, and then like whatever West Coast. You know. By the way, I know I just touched my face. It scratches. What am I supposed to do
Hey,
here?
Rich, you got to scratch it, buddy.
All right, okay. Don wants me to do it.
You
And I
use
got
your,
not
you
one.
could use your glasses, I guess. Yeah, we
I got
loaded too,
two.
Rich.
I got two. Like
loaded, Rich.
literally.
We're loaded.
By the way, those ones that you got right there, that's heavy duty in your right hand.
Yeah, those are the
power free and multi-purpose with hydrogen peroxide.
Do you have allergies too?
I have allergies.
My
too.
allergies are going crazy.
Thank God I don't have them this year. I'd be like,
By the way, this is like a, you know, I'll have my fun with this. This is like a Jewish man's dream to be able to come on the air and complain about your allergies. And it's technically, you know, like germane. You know what? I got something going on here. You know, my right wrist is still hurting from the tennis. And
How's the
then
plantar?
The plantar fascia is feeling great.
good.
Did you roll the baseball?
I did not do that because
Hey,
I thought
Rich.
it was the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Rich, you'd
All
have
right.
been
When are we coming back, Mike? I want to take some phone
we
calls.
got another
in a
minute.
second.
We got another minute.
Okay, very
We
good.
can
Steve
hang for
Alford and Ronnie Cycli were the top scorers of the tournament that year.
Steve Alford was.
Wow.
I remember Bob Knight coming in with the Hoosiers into Chrysler Arena.
Those were great.
Because I was there from 86 to 90. I really loved to hate him.
We beat Indiana
Oh, man,
we beat him in our run.
I mean,
to
that
play
dude
you
could
guys.
stroke, man.
Who
I
was
think
Steve
we beat
Alford, right?
Indiana.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Steve Alford could
Did
stroke.
we beat that? I think we
I
did.
think was the 3-point line there yet?
Ooh,
I don't know.
I don't know if the 3-point line was there yet.
no, I got a funny. No.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on. Let me look. He's smart.
All right. Next up on talking
Yes,
like an
3-point
old
line.
man to
Yes.
millennials on our YouTube feed. Stay tuned. That's next. Eight 844-204-RICH, number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's go to Peyton in Orlando, Florida. Peyton, what's on your mind other than trying to do Monday Night Football with Al Michaels, if this really is that Peyton in Orlando, Florida? Peyton?
No, it's not Peyton Manning, but I was definitely named
dang
after him.
Were you named after him?
Yes, I actually was.
Were your parents Colts fans or Volunteer fans? Which one were they?
No, just my dad was a huge NFL fan, so we
Okay.
actually met Peyton Manning, and they decided to name me after him.
Fantastic. Well, what's on your mind, Peyton?
So as free agency begins, I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan, representing the best fans in the world. So do you guys believe that the Dolphins will be spending big money in free agency to go get big-time players?
I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. I think you've got an absurd amount of draft capital with what I saw at the Combine, one of the deepest drafts I've seen in a long time. I mean, you can get some seriously good players 4th, 5th round. From what I was hearing from Daniel Jeremiah and from all the other evaluators, I think you've got a ton of draft capital, and you sit back and you could see what's going on here. I just can't imagine, you might want to just take one or maybe one shot here and with your cap space and go get somebody. I just don't know who's going to be available right now off the top of my head that the Dolphins would go hit. Do you have an idea? You want to put somebody out there?
Melvin Gordon is a big option in free agency since our run game has been terrible over the past, I don't know how long.
I hear you. Thanks for the call, Peyton. Hang in there, man. Hey, look, I just don't think. God bless Melvin Gordon. I hope he gets where he wants to go and gets paid. I mean, just look at all these young running backs. Being a free agent running back right now, if you're not Derrick Henry, this is not a good time. This is not a good time. Same thing with wide receiver free agency. I'll tell you what, A.J. Green might
Sign
be
now.
not very happy, but Joe Burrow might be around the corner, and this kid, he is. Zach Taylor might be able to put something together, and you don't have to move, and maybe you can finally be part of that team that wins a playoff game for the first time since Boomer Esiason in Cincinnati. But right now, I guess he is, let me get this right here, a franchise tag, non-exclusive wide receiver. That's $17.8 million.
Cha-ching.
That ain't bad. Let's go to Steve in Houston, Texas. You're here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Steve? On the Capital One fan phone line. What's up, man?
Great show as always.
Thank you.
Radio fan, Murph and Moshno, your co-producers, and I just want to say I've been working in the restaurant business for 7.5 years. Longtime Raider fan, as an aside. We've got very strict regulations. You come in the food industry and you have to take a test to be certified in health, safety, and precautions. We get updates every single day through email and phone calls and everything about.
Okay.
We're sanitizing the doors. We're sanitizing the numbers. We're sanitizing the salad tongs. So we've got very strict regulations, and we're all hurting big. It's been a week now. We're going to get all through this, but I've never been through this where you have to be worried about always having a napkin or something in your hand because you're afraid you're going to get contaminated. We've been, like you all, I've been washing my hands this whole week, and we're all, the media, I don't know, it's
I know,
very strict regulations.
Steve. I hear you. Nobody knows, right? I mean, you read an article saying that COVID-19 can last on a certain surface for an absurd amount of time, and then you're wondering, is that true or not? You're hearing that COVID-19, that once you get it, you can't get it again. Then you find out you can get it again, and then you find out if you get it, it's more than just the flu potentially. And then when you get it, you might actually stay in your system. I mean, nobody knows. That's the whole thing about the novel coronavirus. I'm hoping that folks in your area that frequent your restaurant would maybe reach out to you, and if not, order takeout if they're comfortable doing that. Then get a gift card. If you guys have a gift card in your restaurant, that you can get that, give the money to your favorite establishment to keep them as financially healthy as possible, and then when we are all back at it, rocking in the free world again, as I like to say, then you can use that card.
Yeah, I'm in the catering business at Jason's Deli, and I tell you what, we're, like you said, they don't have to worry about 50 people in a restaurant. My girlfriend and I were at another seafood restaurant. There wasn't even 20 people in the whole place, and I thought to myself afterwards, I said, I don't think I'm going to go out to any more restaurants after what we just heard about Italy. But yeah, people, please order out. Please do take out. We're all constantly washing our hands. We have gloves. We've got very strict regulations because nobody wants to get their people in the restaurant and bar business. The last thing we want to do is have somebody get sick. We take it very seriously and buy a gift card. I'm so glad you said that. And you have a great show, and God bless.
Right back at you, Steve. Hang in there. Right back at you. And while I'm distressed to hear, obviously, what is going on for people, hardworking people, hourly wage workers in restaurants and bars, and I'm genuinely concerned about their welfare and whether the Senate, when it gets back to business, are they back? Are they back from their weekend? Anybody know if they're back yet?
Stand by.
Because that would be great, to get back there, because people are freaking. People like Steve need to know what's going on, what are the rules of order, and who can get paid if they are sick, at any rate. Then you see, photographs of people among thousands of people in places. And I'm like, what are we doing? The way you act affects me and potentially my mom, your mom, everybody's dad, grandparents. Come on, people. That's why I appreciate Steph Curry putting out a video to say, social distance yourselves, everybody. Coach O, our first guest on tomorrow's show. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
He'll be here tomorrow talking about exactly that. Jack Nicklaus. Great video that Senator Rick Scott of Florida tweeted out to say, hey, our generation is the most vulnerable. If you love Jack Nicklaus, stay home, was essentially the message from Jack Nicklaus. And I love Jack Nicklaus. And other than this, I'm going home. And I'll be here as long as I'm healthy enough to do it, and my family's healthy enough for me to leave the house for just a few hours. Your phone call is 844-204-RICH, the latest in the NFL world that is still going on because the new league year is opening up. And Peter King and Brent Musburger still to come. 1 hour in the books. Everything? Cool. Okay, everybody. We are here on youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Please subscribe. If you're new to this, hit that subscribe button because we do our best to slice the show up and put the videos out there. You know, it's crazy how some videos just spike up in popularity. You know what one spiked up in popularity was 2 years ago, Richard Lewis showing up here and talking about dining with Larry David. And that's great. Check that out on our page here when
Richard
we're
Lewis
off the
is
air.
so funny.
Oh,
on
last
Curb.
night's Curb last night too.
I haven't seen it
Won't
yet.
say
I
it.
haven't seen it.
Won't say it. Oh, it's great. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I saw Fabiano said it's the best of the year.
What year was this, Don? What I'm throwing to right now? Was this 2015? 2016? Was this 2014? So we were just weeks old.
Wait.
Larry King stopped by.
Oh, my gosh.
I haven't seen this video in a long time.
This is great.
Check it out. All right, Larry, while the radio audience is away, would you mind reading some lines that we can use for drop-ins for future radio use? Would you do that?
Sure.
Thank you. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
The phones are lighting up. The caller makes a good point. I need callers. Where are my callers? Turn your radio down, pal. You're talking to Rich Eisen. That's R-I-C-H. Eisen. If Belichick's a genius, call me Einstein. Oi, Del Fulo.
It's Del Tufo. You're right. Oi, Del Tufo. There we go.
What is that?
That's him over there. He's our sound guy that fumbles all the time.
Oi, Del Fufo.
Del Tufo.
What the hell a name is Del Fufo?
Del Tufo.
Oh.
Okay.
Oi, Del Tufo. You're not Jewish. What's the matter with you? You're on the air, Del Tufo. Putting the oof in Del Tufo. Nobody knows anything, baby. Time is a flat circle. Is this segment ever going to end? Time has lost all meaning. I've had marriages that didn't last this long. Don't care. We're going to miss you, Rex. Said it once, I'll say it again. The Patriots are fascists.
That's ridiculous.
Seahawks are fickle, angry birds.
That's it. Larry King, everybody.
Thank you, man.
That's a Del Tufo over there, by the way. There he is.
That is your name? Del Tufo?
That's right. Oh, man, how great was that?
That was when he butchered my name. I was
Del Fufo.
done.
Well, we had him read off a prompter right here.
Yeah.
We were all standing around.
I mean,
do you have? How many do we? How many
I
still
only
have?
have a couple of them. I got to.
You have Don't Care, right? That's
The
still there.
caller makes a good point.
Okay, very
I
good.
need callers. Where are my callers? You're listening to DJ Mike.
Oh, that was a
You're
very
listening
different.
to DJ Mike. D, 8 wheels, no brakes.
That was a great one. Hold on, I gotta keep looking.
Do you use that for your Friday night show at least?
Oh, I have a You're on the Air Del Tufo that I use every week
From Larry King.
from Larry King. That's amazing.
Did you hear that one? Eight wheels. Can you play that one more time? I have not heard that
You're
in years.
listening to DJ Mike. D, 8 wheels, no brakes.
Gotta keep looking. Hold on, where's the Don't Care? Because I know I have Don't Care in here somewhere.
Well, that's the Jay Cutler story.
yeah. Hold
that
on,
we heard
hold
from Matt Jones,
on.
right?
Matt Jones from Breaking Bad.
Right,
Yeah.
Matt Jones from Breaking Bad
I think that's on the
came
first
on and
page.
told the story about being in Vegas,
Yeah.
where he's standing in a urinal next to a friend of him was standing.
Huge Bears fan.
Huge bear, but I mean, also you don't talk to a man while he's
Don't
doing
talk-
his
don't-
business.
don't talk to him.
Certainly,
No,
to Jay
no.
Cutler. Like, what are you thinking?
Don't talk to the guy at the urinal.
Just turn him big Bears fan, Jay, whatever, and Jay's just looks up right from the urinal and goes, "Don't care."
care.
I'm looking. I know I got that one. I got that one.
So then we had Larry King do it, and he did it. It's got to be somewhere in your system still, right?
Yeah,
It's all good.
Because it's so long ago.
All right, aren't we almost back from radio here?
Oh, yeah. We got to go.
Okay,
We'll
good.
be back.
I gotta go.
What we're gonna do right here is go back into time.
Previously on the Rich Eisen Show.
Jeff Van Gundy back here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Gobert acknowledged his reckless acts, but we have to remember how young these people are and how immune they believe themselves to be. He should have and could have done it better, but he can help to educate now. I thought his apology struck just the right tone. He didn't try to dodge how cavalier he was with the whole situation and wants to help.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now.
Y'all ready for this?
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
If we have the knowledge, then we have the power.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
We are very dependent on each other. How you behave will influence my health. You should think about it that you're doing it not just for yourself, but for the people around you, the people you love, and, sort of the global community.
Let's all do our part.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
And stay calm.
Today's guests from NBC Sports, Peter King, Las Vegas Raiders voice, Brent Musburger. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Well, hey, everybody. Hour number 2 of the Rich Eisen Show on the air. We are live in the Los Angeles studios of the Rich Eisen Show. Our friends here at AT&T, as you can see, there's not many people walking behind me right here. As life as we know it in the United States is becoming unique. Brent Musburger will be joining us in hour number 3, Peter King in hour number 2. I am here. I don't remember any times like this ever. And Brent's calling in from Las Vegas, Nevada, where the casino and sportsbook industry is shutting down. And I wonder what his thoughts on that subject are. Peter King will be joining us shortly. If you are listening on this radio station, I want to give a shout out to everybody in the Rich Eisen Show radio affiliate network for doing your jobs today as well. It means a lot to us. We've been on this radio station. You've been listening to us for over 5 years, potentially. We may be new to your listening audience as well, and I just want to throw that out there. Even though I'm mentioning our YouTube feed, because Audience Network, which has been our home for 5+ years on television, has changed its mandate. But we are here in Los Angeles, in the studios here on the campus of AT&T, and intend to be here for a good long time. But I do want to just say, even though I'm mentioning our YouTube feed at youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, please do support your local radio station. And support your local businesses that can still be supported despite the necessary measures that state governments are taking. And we're assuming the federal government will eventually come up with some set of guidelines that might calm some nerves here. And markets, I might add. I haven't looked at my 401k in a few days. Just make
Don't do it.
I know.
Don't do it.
So support local. And I mentioned we had somebody from Houston call in last hour saying that he's got a restaurant, a catering business. If your local establishment that potentially, because that just happened, it happened in Los Angeles last night. It's happening in New York State and New Jersey and Connecticut now, right? It's happening in so many municipalities across the country. No restaurants open for your patronage in person. However, open for your patronage in takeout. And if you are comfortable doing that, do that. And if you're uncomfortable doing that, then buy a gift card. Buy a gift card. Make sure that your favorite local establishment can stay open when things are open again, and employees can somehow be made whole if they're depending on an hourly wage. Just want to throw that out there. But if you can stay home, please stay home. My gosh, all you've got to do is just understand that you can spread it around. You might not feel it, you might not have it, but you can get it. And you might not feel it, and you may have it, and you're spreading it around. Certainly if you're 18, 19, 20, for anybody out there who's watching us on our YouTube feed, because this is the method in which you do take in a show, because this is a new millennium, you may have it, folks. Don't go out to some bar and just party like it's nobody's business, because you are spreading it around, and that person might infect somebody's boss, who infects somebody's employee, or some employee affects somebody's mother. Come on. Let's be smart. Just Google the word Italy. That's all I need to tell you. It's killing Susie and I. We honeymoon there. We've gone so many different places. It's one of the most amazing places on the planet, going through a hellscape nightmare right now. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Have we decided to do your news now or later on, Christopher? What do you want to do?
Later on.
Okay, some NFL news that I saw during the commercial break, because the free agency window for conversing between teams and future potential free agents is open, and the new league year will start on Wednesday, just as was planned. And there was some word that the NFL would push it, but they're not.
There's a lot going on right now.
And there's some word that the NFLPA didn't want to push it. Peter King had that in his Monday morning, in his Football Night in America piece, and his Football Morning in America piece, pardon me, today. And he'll be joining us in about 15 minutes' time to tell us. It looks like the PA just didn't want to move off this date. Austin Hooper, who many fans know because he's been catching Matt Ryan passes and touchdowns, looks like he's Baker Mayfield's new tight end.
Cha-ching. He's going to be the highest paid tight end in the National Football League.
So I guess that means David Njoku, his time there is coming to a close.
Perhaps.
Or he'd be a tight end 2, option 2 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Njoku tweeted that he welcomes the competition. Mike Silver of NFL saying that many execs and coaches believe that Odell Beckham or Jarvis Landry could be there for the taking in a trade.
Could you imagine Tom Brady signs elsewhere and Odell Beckham gets traded?
To that same team?
To that same team. Or Brady re-signs and you get Odell.
Sign me up.
You would do that, right? Wouldn't you?
Well, because the Patriots were looking at Hunter Henry or Austin Hooper and potentially in free agency. Of course, Chargers tagged Henry and now Hooper to the Browns.
I don't see the Patriots making a tight end the highest paid tight end in the business. I don't see the Patriots making anybody the highest paid anything in the business.
Nope. I don't either.
Certainly not at a position like tight end. Like maybe.
I mean, they had the greatest tight end of all time.
Right, and he still wasn't the highest paid at his position, right?
I don't believe so.
Let's get to the phone lines right here. Davin in Gainesville, Florida. What's up, Davin?
Hi, yes, Rich Eisen, longtime fan.
Thanks, bud.
Big Detroit Lions fan. I was just wondering, do you think there's a potential of Chase Young falling down to the Lions at pick 3 with all the quarterback talk?
Oh, God. Light a candle, Davin. I don't.
I mean, Matt Patricia hopes so.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I don't see that happening unless somebody totally panics and jumps up, and gives Washington the proverbial offer they cannot refuse, like Miami, to get Tua because they desperately want him or they think they want him. I think the Lions just stay put, and you can be the spot. That's what I've thought all along. Burrow 1, Chase Young 2, and then the Lions sit there and say, who wants Tua, and just let the offers come in based on whatever they talk about the days before the draft, and just sit back and move down to 5 and also get some more of the Dolphins draft capital because you got a lot of holes to fix. I like where the Lions are at 3, man. I think you should be in a good spot.
Heck yeah, appreciate it.
You got it, man. Take care of yourself. Be healthy. Let's go to Austin in Indiana. What's up, Austin?
Hey, what's going on, Rich?
What's going on, man? What's on your mind?
Hey, well, I'm just a big-time New York Jets fan, but I also can appreciate, like, Baker Mayfield and some of the other quarterbacks that came out of the class with Darnold. And I was just looking at it, and even with them signing Austin Hooper, I think it's such a bad signing because Baker's biggest problem is he had no time to throw in the pocket. I just don't know what your thoughts are, if you thought that was a smart signing or not, but I found that crazy to make him the highest paid tight end.
You know what? It's a good point right there that there's more glaring needs, one would say, than filling a tight end role. But any quarterback will tell you, and starting with Brady and obviously Patrick Mahomes, having a major threat at tight end. And thank you for the call. Appreciate it, Austin. Having a major threat at tight end is huge. And a great security blanket and a great guy to look for quickly if you do need to get rid of the ball fast. It does help. It does help. And clearly the Browns know they need to help with that offensive line. They have to. But it's really going to be about Kevin Stefanski getting in Baker's head and guiding him to where he needs to be and coaching him up, and Baker accepting that coaching and getting ready for a playing season in a manner that people are beginning to question if he's got that ability. There's a lot of question marks about him, and we're not one of those places on this radio dial that likes to make my bread and butter on bashing Baker Mayfield. It's quite the opposite.
Indeed. We love Baker.
So they do need to figure out that offensive line. There's no doubt about it. But I think Hooper's a nice move. And if they can afford him, salary cap just went up $10 million, by the way.
Go for it.
Something going on over there?
Yeah, we got a trade, Rich. The Cardinals and Texans.
Okay, let me guess.
Okay. This is Bill O'Brien making a move, so you got to think outside the box.
Okay. Involves who? Involves which position?
Involves the running back position.
So Kenyon Drake is a free agent, so...
Well, Kenyon Drake got transition tagged.
I know that, right. So, what do you got for me?
All we know is David Johnson of the Cardinals going to Houston.
Going to Houston. Okay. So Kenyon staying put. David Johnson goes to Houston. Because I think Carlos Hyde was just a one-year deal.
I think so, too. And we had a caller last hour talk about the Miami Dolphins. They agreed to terms with Eric Flowers, $30 million over 3 years.
Oh, my word. Is Alan Dallas out there to call in about Eric Flowers?
I'm sure Al is out there.
Al, if you're out there listening on your local radio station, if you're out there watching, Al, we got to hear from you. Your thoughts on Eric Flowers being given all that money? He was a big blue turnstile for a couple of years, wasn't he?
Sure was.
Oh, my gosh. Please, any Giant fan, please do me the favor of picking up the phone and calling me 844-204-RICH. Let's go to Nathan here in Los Angeles, California. What's up, Nathan? That's line 2, Mike.
Thank you for taking my call. Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air, man. Where are you driving?
Okay. I'm sorry?
Where are you going here in Los Angeles right now? I thought I'm the only one on the road.
I am moving, so I am forced to make trips back and forth with my own car from my old place to my new place.
Okay, sir. What's on your mind then? Well, how can we help you then?
A couple thoughts on the CBA real quick. First off, I think now that we're going to 17 games, we need to officially dispense with using 1,000 yards as the benchmark for a great season.
No doubt. We got to get used to that, Nathan. And the same thing with any statistic. That's part of what I agree with you.
Go ahead.
But no. Go, sure.
I'm not a calculator, but the math runs to like 60 yards a game or something like that. That's about what you'd have to get to get to 1,000 yards in a 17-game season.
I appreciate the call, Nathan. Be well, safe as you're moving. You imagine you're one of those folks who believe that this could survive on any surface, and you got boxes and you got stuff and you got people moving and there's no social distancing, and oh my gosh. Hey, man. This is something, I wonder if there was a sports talk radio format and Twitter and everything back in the early 70s when they went from 14 to 16 games, if there was people saying, how are we going to figure out from generation to generation who's better and who's not? How are we going to compare numbers? It's going to be 2 more games. How can you compare this and compare that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Get ready for it. Get ready for it. I think by after 16 weeks for the first couple years, folks like us will be saying, hey, compare this to previous years. He sets the record for most touchdowns in a season prior to this.
Thing is,
the 17th game's a bonus.
O.J. Simpson ran for 2,000 yards on a 14-game schedule, and there have obviously been a handful of guys who have done it in 16
That's
games.
Amazing. That's amazing.
And we still lump them all into the same
That's
group.
True.
So
that's true.
It'll be fine.
You know, if there wasn't a pandemic, I would consider talking a little fantasy football in a full-on segment about what a 17th game would mean.
We've already had discussions in my league about what should we do.
What do you mean?
Well, because we play a 13-game regular season, and then a 3-round playoff.
Well,
and
you're
then,
going to have to go to 14.
And then nothing week 17. But you could just keep it the same, I guess. Have nothing week 17 and 18.
But week 18 would be... Week 17 would be the game of your championship now.
It could, or you could just keep it week 16 like normal.
Yeah, that's what you want to do is just sit around
for 2 weeks and do nothing. I know.
Please.
I
you guys
know.
are totally insane with your 19-team league and your 50 round draft and all that craziness. So you're going to
14-team league.
Okay, right.
But so do you play a team twice?
So then you'll go less. Then you'll go less is more, right? Yeah. Then you play a team twice. The NFL's going to figure out 17 games. I think your Schmecky League can. By the way, is that what it's called?
It's called the
Schmecky League?
The official Schmecky League.
James Dolan League?
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we will hit the Capital One fan phone line, and Peter King will call us next, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. If you are looking for the so-called solid off-season pickup that won't let you down, Honda has you covered with the 2020 CR-V that is available with a turbocharged engine, everybody. The 2020 Honda CR-V, actually, that turbocharged engine is standard. How about them apples? Packing the technology and muscle for rough roads with the available real-time all-wheel drive, comfortable seating for 5, giving you more room for friends, family, and activity supplies for all your future adventures. Standard 60-40 split second row for cargo space. That's extra as well. The available hands-free access power tailgate, spacious cargo area. My gosh, the CR-V is perfect for game day, road trip, or a night out on the town when we are back out on the town for something like that. I'm telling you what, we're going to get through this. And in the meantime, get ready to be ready for all that. Go to your local Honda dealer and tell them I sent you for the Honda CR-V. Peter King of NBC when we come back. Now then, I want to save this for the radio audience.
Okay.
But Alan Dallas heard the clarion call.
By the way,
and it's pop him up for a second.
The comments just says Eric Flowers
Hop for a second. Al, save the gold. Okay, I just want to let you know I appreciate you listening and hearing and doing your Rich Eisen show duty. I appreciate it, Al, in advance.
Thank you.
You doing well? Your family good? Everybody good?
Everyone's good. I told Adam when I called I was not going to speak of COVD 19 or whatever you want to call it.
That's all good, man. We're going to do it. You got it. But just you sound subdued. Just save your powder. And
because I've been accused on other radio venues.
Eventually, when we come back, I've got Peter King. But so hang on. I'm going to get to you before the end of the hour, all right? If you can.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sit back, listen to Peter King, but I would like to give you to give Dolphins fans a tutorial of what to expect.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, tutorial, huh?
Someone in the chat goes, "Isn't Eric Flowers the guy who got Eli destroyed for 2 years?"
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's not wind him up. Don't wind him up.
Sorry.
All right, Al, we'll put you back on hold. Don't wind him up yet. He's like that bull at a rodeo that's bucking in the
waiting to get out,
waiting to see red.
Yep.
Well, in the gate, right? The gate's gonna open,
and then, bam! 8 seconds. Good luck.
El Toro.
El Alo.
Oh boy. So by the way,
454s are having a
Chris
good
Jones
time,
got the non-exclusive franchise tag. Devin McCourty.
From the Chiefs.
Yeah, he's not too happy about that at all.
Pats re-signed McCourty.
Shaq Barrett. Now, when I saw him,
monster,
at the end of the year, he was like, "I want to stay here forever." I guess they couldn't figure something out.
Were you calling him Shaquille O'Neal by accident?
I was not.
Oh, got it.
I'll say I don't care. I honestly don't care. Asshole.
Hey.
Yes. I just did that for the 454s.
By the way, have you seen all the people that Adam Gase got rid of that have now signed huge deals?
Do not get me started. Don't get me started.
Don't get you wound up.
Don't get out wound up.
Tannehill
Don't get me wound up. I know.
And Kenyon Drake.
I know. Right? And Devontae Parker having an amazing season.
Devontae Parker got $40 million.
And exhale.
And woosah.
What's going on with Cage at home? How's he doing?
He's just chilling, man. We did the ink hand and footprints yesterday for the baby book. That was super cool.
Good.
Not into the hands though. He was like, we had to like physically flatten him out to get him down. But that was great. On Friday, photographer came over, took some pictures.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of baby pics. Like,
well, you've seen the ones in my house, right?
They're kind of the same way. Well, black and white, really awesome.
Yeah, I'll give him a shout out. The actor John Ailes. who's a great follow on Twitter as well. He is an amazingly talented photographer. He took all of our kids' pictures.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great dude,
excited
man.
for those.
What's up, Ailsey? If you're out there.
Stay tuned for a picture announcement coming soon.
Okay.
Official announcement.
Well, I'm just saying, like, here he is.
Yeah.
We post everything on Twitter, but like,
I
hard copy, like a Christmas card.
I bet somewhere your mom has your baby announcement, Mike. No?
Actually,
what?
I actually have all my pictures out here. She gave
You
us
have baby
all-
photos? Bring in some baby photos, Mike.
Yeah, I have all my. I looked at my father.
I bet your mom has your baby announcement somewhere.
Rich,
Right.
trust me. I was the one
What?
that wasn't supposed to happen. Like, I was the baby.
What does that mean?
Well,
Are
they
you
weren't- they
oops?
weren't-
Are
They
you
weren't.
oops?
Oh, I was an oops. Oh, big oops.
Whoa.
I was an oops.
By the way, we're sharing now.
We are.
We are
sharing. By the way,
I
speaking
feel,
of...
I feel like a little less socially distant from you right now, Mike. I'll be very honest with you.
Man, wait till you see this Eric Armstead deal.
He's the first. He hit. He hit it
He hit.
for the 49ers.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Folks are calling in and then hanging up. Please hang on if you want. I mean, just giving messages to our call screener, Adam, as Peter King's about to join us shortly. And Adam just types in something from some people. So I want to throw this out here. Caller asks Rich to shout out truck drivers keeping America running. You bet. You know, it's amazing how in this day and age, things like this happen, and you take things for granted no longer. I'll tell you what, how about people picking up the trash and do any civic service to keep things running and moving.
Amen.
And the social fabric intact. Truck drivers, people who stock shelves, people who are
Bus
checking
drivers.
you out at pharmacies right now. Everybody who's doing what they're doing to keep America moving and on target for a quick recovery. Please, I say thank you to you right there. Now, Peter King's on right now, and I don't know if you saw what Adam Schefter just reported, and it lends credence to some rumors I've been hearing for some time that for some reason DeAndre Hopkins was not in favor in Houston, and Adam Schefter reporting, Peter, that as part of the trade that brings David Johnson to Houston, it is DeAndre Hopkins going to Arizona.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
I mean, Peter, what is that? I mean, I first of all, thank you for calling in today. How are you? You're doing well?
Thank you for having me. Can I tell you the origin of DeAndre Hopkins and all this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So toward the end of the year, I had heard that DeAndre Hopkins was not altogether happy in Houston, and that they were not altogether happy with his performance. Now, you know, how much of that stuff that you hear is real, how much isn't it real? And I just sort of filed it away. And at the scouting combine, someone who I know well told me, you know, they might be serious about moving DeAndre Hopkins. So I filed that away again. And so last week, when I was on the phone getting ready for this column, obviously this is a big column when you do the first week of free agency and along with the incredible confluence of events with the the new CBA and coronavirus. So I'm talking to a lot of people, and there was another team low in the first round of this draft that was actively working on DeAndre Hopkins in the last 7 days. Okay, and when I say working on him, I mean studying tape and all that. And so I wrote it, you know, but I said, who knows? You know, I didn't know that he was going to be traded today at all. But this really doesn't shock me. Now look, there's got to be something else involved, and I think what else must be involved is a prominent draft choice, because Bill O'Brien desperately wants draft capital to rebuild his team.
Well, I mean, John McClain, our good friend from Houston Chronicle, who knows everything about Houston sports and certainly the Texans, and this is why I love having you on right now, Peter, and I appreciate you calling in again and, talking about breaking news like this. John McClain says that it's DeAndre and a fourth to the Cardinals for David Johnson and a second this year and a fourth rounder next year. It is a fantasy football trade, essentially. Dude, this is actually happening right now, Peter.
Well, I want you to think about this too. Everybody is going to say, "Oh my God, this is crazy, Bill O'Brien. This is a rapacious trade. It's horrible for Houston." But just remember a couple of things. All right, this is really important to remember. And again, look, you're telling me about this trade right now, and I didn't know when you just started talking to me about it.
Right, sure.
But everybody's going to say, "Oh my God, it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough." Well, I'll tell you why it seems like this isn't enough, and it's a very, very simple reason. Because DeAndre Hopkins is an eighth-year player. I think he's 28 years old this year. And if you look at what is so important about the market right now, there is no position in this draft, far and away, that has as many good players in it as wide receiver. And so if I'm looking at this right now, what I'm saying about it is that the most important element of this trade is certainly not David Johnson. It's that whatever it would be, the 35th pick overall or whatever the Cardinals, I don't even know what it is, 38th pick overall, I don't know. But that is why Bill O'Brien did this deal.
It's still a shocker, right? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins
is a shocker. It is a shocker. But, Rich, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but I do want to make just one other point. And I'm sorry I didn't. But I just want to say that at this time, all right, you have to ask yourself, it's only a $3 million cap hit to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins right now. And if you feel like he has played his best football, and he might be on the other side of that right now, if you feel that, and if you can get the 35th pick in a pretty good draft, knowing that you might be able to get the next DeAndre Hopkins. And if I'm not mistaken, DeAndre Hopkins was about the 27th pick in whatever it was, 11 or 12. So, I don't know. I maybe it's because I don't think of it in terms of, oh my God, I love DeAndre Hopkins as a player, and I really like him as a player. But I understand why Houston is doing this.
Well, I got to tell you, just to fill in the blanks here, Arizona has the 40th overall selection in round 2. And, yes, you're right. I mean, the wide receiving group was spectacular at the Combine, Peter. And, somebody like the Raiders sitting there at 12th overall might get their first might have their pick of the entire class because of how stacked the top 10 is and all of that.
But isn't it interesting, Rich? Isn't it interesting that what we have seen with the wide receiver group in the last few years? Look at last year. Terry McLaurin, 76th overall. DK Metcalf, 64th overall. You could Deebo Samuel, second round pick, obviously Tennessee with Brown. It's great.
I'm with you, Peter.
Great depth.
I'm with you, Peter. But how many of those are going to blossom into DeAndre Hopkins? And I mean, you've got to sit here and think if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan, you're like, okay, Larry's coming back. Kenyon Drake did what he did. Now DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald on the same.
I love that Kenyon Drake move, don't you?
Oh, big time! And now Kyler Murray.
$8 million for 1 year for Kenyon Drake after the way he played in that offense last year. And I got to tell you, I'll tell you this: Cliff Kingsbury thinks he died and went to heaven. Kenyon Drake
and
you got nothing last year.
And last year, Peter, and I will give it up to the Cardinals. And at this point last year, you're wondering what is Steve Keim thinking. Why would they do this to Josh Rosen? And the way they handled it was something that needed to be, addressed. Right now, I'll tell you what, man, this is an incredible button pushed because David Johnson is significant, but less of a loss when you got Kenyon Drake, who you picked up, cents on the dollar in the middle of last season, and Kyler Murray coming off an offensive rookie of the year campaign with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That is major.
And think of it, Rich. Do you know how motivated DeAndre Hopkins is going to be to stick it to the Texans? You gave up on me and all this stuff, even though I believe he wanted to go. But there's one other little point in this. If you're DeAndre Hopkins, aren't you thinking right now, hey, I got 3 years left on my deal, and it's at about 10 or 11 million or whatever, I forget what it is, maybe like 12 million a year, and he's probably thinking, I want to get paid. So he's going to go to Arizona this year and be hugely motivated to have a very, very big year for the Arizona Cardinals.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, Peter, I give you the floor on what the Dak Prescott franchising means.
I don't think it means a lot other than the Dallas Cowboys have totally mishandled this situation. They screwed it up. Totally screwed this up. Rich, when you have a quarterback who's good and he's almost ready to get paid, you better pay him. Because the only thing that happens is if you delay it, it's only going to cost you money. How much money do you think the Ryan Tannehill contract has cost the Dallas Cowboys? It's cost them money because now Ryan Tannehill, with $91 million in the first 3 years of this contract, this is the fourth highest amount of money that a quarterback has ever gotten in the first 3 years of a contract. And Dak Prescott is looking at that and just laughing because that contract is going to mean that Dak Prescott just made more money yesterday because eventually they got to sign him long term. And I think the Ryan Tannehill contract has got to make Jerry and Stephen Jones just gulp and say, man, why didn't we get this done last offseason?
And the Derrick Henry contract would be what? Because he got slapped with a franchise tag. I don't know if you saw Tyrann Mathieu go out on Twitter and wonder why the Titans paid the quarterback that was.
I get that. Don't you get that? I mean, Tyrann Mathieu is, but Rich, I'm sorry, you don't pay running backs. And I know everybody's going to say, well, you got to pay Derrick Henry. Well, maybe, but tell me, when is the last big contract for a running back? When do you ever look at that 3 years into it and say, oh, what a bargain? You saying that with Ezekiel Elliott right now? No. I mean, you going to say that on Saquon Barkley's second contract? I mean, maybe, but it doesn't happen. Those things don't work. So, I mean, that's the way it is. If you want to make a huge amount of money in the NFL, don't play running back.
Peter King here from NBC Sports on the Rich Eisen Show. Well, one thing you're saying in about a few years in that, man, this contract looks a little cheap or inexpensive, is Garoppolo, based on what you're seeing of what Tannehill hit and what franchise tag rate Prescott hit, and also Kirk Cousins signing for $33 million per for 2 extra years.
Kirk Cousins, is that amazing? Is that amazing? Mike McCartney, his agent, I texted him today and I said, hey, Mike, you know what you got to do? You have to go teach a class at a negotiating class in a business school. Your entire syllabus, you can just hand out a syllabus with 2 words on it. Kirk Cousins.
You know what he is? You know what he is? I'll tell you what, Peter. He's the Darrelle Revis of quarterbacks, essentially.
Yeah.
The reason why I brought up Garoppolo is my way of taking this conversation in the Tom Brady direction. The Tannehill signing and where things stand on right now with Tom Brady, best you can tell is what?
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I had thought for a long time that at the end, the Patriots were going to have a chance, and it was going to be up to Bill Belichick. They certainly don't seem to be moving very aggressively toward doing that. And one other thing about the Patriots, Rich, they just, for the next 2 years, have committed a combined $14 million. And they were already a cap-strapped team, to Matthew Slater and Devin McCourty and Slater in that order. So, I mean, at some point, I don't know where all the money's coming from, but I still think, I've said it all along, I think it's probably more likely than not that he signs elsewhere. I've heard about all the Tampa stuff. It wouldn't shock me. I've thought for a long time that it was going to be Teddy Bridgewater, but I'm sure Bruce Arians, like every offensive coach in modern NFL history, has to say, man, I'd love to get my hands on Tom Brady. So, I mean, who knows? We'll see.
Well, the Bucs went ahead and enfranchised Shaq Barrett, so it looks like
that one was a pretty expected deal.
Well, I guess that means what for Jameis now?
They have money to sign Brady if they want to.
Is that a fit though, Peter? I mean, for Brady and for Tom. Do you think that's a fit for Tom? Obviously.
Well, I mean, everybody might say that he doesn't have the deep arm that Bruce Arians would want. I've always thought that was a myth about Bruce Arians. You think if Bruce Arians doesn't have the strongest arm quarterback, that he's going to come in and say, "All right, Tom, we're throwing 5 40-yard outs every game," or whatever. He's going to coach the guy who he has. And if you think right now that Bruce Arians would like a strong arm quarterback over a smart winning quarterback, I think that's wrong. I've always thought that his offense fits everybody and is a delight for, a Brett Favre, Michael Vick arm. Okay, Brady doesn't have that right now. He'll live, and you think that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are saying, "Oh my God, we can't run as many go routes anymore." Their kids on Christmas, if they open up their free agent gift, and it's Tom Brady. So I don't think that everybody should be as hugely interested in what kind of deep arm Tom Brady at 43 is going to have.
Well, I guess the way I was trying to say it, I should have put a finer point on it, was that, if it comes down to it, returning to New England, finishing his career as a Patriot, and knowing that you're always in a division and with a coaching staff and with a situation that you've got a chance to win it going in, as opposed to putting on pewter for the first time. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Just ask Warren Sapp and our buddies,
right.
Lynch and Brooks, etc. I'm just pointing it out that it's just such a change that it would be always remembered he finished up with Tampa and not in New England,
But,
that he would make
Rich,
he'd make that decision.
I'll just say 2 things about that. Number one, I remember being in training camp of the Denver Broncos when 43 or 42-year-old Jerry Rice was trying to make the Mike Shanahan Broncos very late in his career, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching him get covered by a free agent cornerback from Bowling Green. And I said, "Oh my God, this is sad," and everything like that. And everybody at the time was saying, "Oh my God, his legacy will be tarnished." No one in your listening audience even remembers he was in training camp with the Denver Broncos. Nobody remembers him as a Seahawk or barely remembers him as a Raider. It didn't tarnish his legacy. That's number one. Number two, Jeff Darlington was on this, the ESPN reporter, the excellent ESPN reporter, was on this forever. And he said, hey, Tom Brady just might want some sort of new experience. Everybody said, "Oh my God, he can only go to a place where he can win and challenge to win a Super Bowl." Tom Brady is more of an experiential guy, and I'll just finish by saying this one thing: that last year the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 7-7 going into the last 2 games of the year against Houston and Atlanta at home. They outplayed each one of those teams in those 2 games, except for one thing: Jameis Winston threw 6 interceptions. And so all I'm saying is that easily Tampa Bay could have been 9-7 or 10-6 last year, and I mean easily.
Right.
Their quarterback turned it over 36 times, including fumbles. So, it's. I don't think the Bucs are that far away.
Peter, I've got about a couple minutes left. Can you tell me if it's still, and by the way, it's just been amazing going down this wormhole, just talking sports, right? But is it possible,
Really?
Is it possible that the new league year still gets pushed because of everything that's going on in the world, Peter?
Rich, I got the sense last night that the NFL was, had no intention of moving it, but they've gotten so much pushback, from not only the media but from their general managers. I quoted two of them today who were outraged, just outraged. And Adam Schefter, I thought he was going to blow a fuse last night on SportsCenter when he was talking to Van Pelt about what he had heard. I mean, either he's talking to the same people I'm talking to or something, but there were people last night who were incredulous that it wasn't going to be moved. Now, I think the NFLPA, and I think there are some owners also who believe that, hey, look, when is it going to be a good time in the next 2 months to conduct our regularly scheduled business? And I'm not defending them. I'm saying that here is what I was hearing yesterday. Not only this is an outrage, but others saying, I mean, we gotta conduct our business, and we don't want to be having free agency on July 8th and the draft on July 29th. So I can see it both ways, but I certainly see that the NFL is in the horns of a dilemma here. Just my gut feeling is they're going to go ahead with it as normal now that they've started the tampering period.
Peter, thanks for the call. You well, and everybody else being well, hunkered down?
Yeah, everybody's good. We're hunkered down in Brooklyn, and if this is as bad as it gets, I think we can all handle it.
Right back at you, Peter. Thanks for the call. We'll chat soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Rich.
Right back at you. Peter King, at Peter_King on Twitter. Lots to unpack in your phone calls at 844-204-RICH. And also word about Bridgewater and who might be interested in him and starting the conversations. And it is shocking. I will say this right now in Houston, and we'll ask this of John McClain, who's been kind enough to, on short notice, join us at the top of next hour.
Oh, nice.
Before Brent Musburger, an old school hour 3. John McClain and Brent Musburger. Right now, because everything to me comes back to the movie Hoosiers. My favorite sports movie, period. End of story. Right now, Bill O'Brien is like Coach Dale with 4 guys on the floor and the fan base howling and him holding up the game plan in the leather satchel and just waving it at the fans. Because DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, it doesn't matter that you got a 2 and a 4 back, 2 this year, 4 next year. DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, just again, because fans are fans, we're all fans, and we all think we know, and we all like to play general manager. DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson is a fantasy football trade that gets rejected, laughed out of the room, and you saying, "Are you kidding me?" to your friend. And don't ever trade with me again. And don't ever talk to me again and lose my number.
You might get thrown out of the league.
Again, this is not fantasy football, it's real football. But in terms of telling fans what's going on, this one is what we call a non-starter. Wow. 844-204-RICH, still to dial on this crazy-ass edition of the Rich Eisen Show on this radio station near you that we're thrilled you're supporting. And also watching us, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. I'm telling you, man, and I'll talk about this again when the radio audience returns. I'm telling you, man. Remember I told you last year on the trade deadline?
Tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what, man. Knock on wood if you're with me. That guy, DeAndre Hopkins, man. 55 more catches last year than anybody else on that Arizona Cardinals team, and they like to wing it around, don't they?
The Texans were up 24-0 on the Chiefs.
Now, David Johnson from 2 years ago, or is it 3 years ago even now?
A while ago, yeah.
Where he was dynamic and he became the first overall pick in many other fantasy football drafts. That David Johnson for last year's DeAndre Hopkins would have been a fantasy football trade that you perhaps would have rejected if you were a David Johnson owner. Right? The year that Bruce Arians used David Johnson to the manner where he could compare him to Franco Harris, and we didn't bat an eyelash. That guy for DeAndre Hopkins, which is why, again, Bill O'Brien's waving the satchel with his game plan at the fan base. And why?
Yeah, 2016.
I'm
David
telling you, with
Johnson.
all of these kids that are coming up as wide receivers, I'm telling you, man,
Yeah, David
they
Johnson
are really good.
led the league in touches, 373 total yards, 2,100.
So
total touchdowns.
Bill O'B, and this is a question I'm going to ask McClain, and I'll ask you this right here. Does this trade get done if O'Brien's not also the general manager?
No way.
What coach would be able to look at an owner and say, this is what we're going to do? And another general manager would raise
What's
their hand.
crazy is Peter King brought up DeAndre Hopkins' age as a reason for that. David Johnson's 28, going to be 29. Off
Again,
of an
I
injury
just-
history.
I had heard, again, that there was just some gear grinding. Don't you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the Patriots were knocking on the door? And
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of teams knocking on a door for a player of his caliber means the word is on. It's on the street. It's out. Wow. Every year, the new league year is one of those big shockers. This is the big shocker. This is the big shocker. Arizona fits in the slot. What if you do this? Let me just sound this one out here. Fits in the slot. Hopkins outside the numbers, same side of the field.
Kenyon Drake out of the backfield.
What are you going to do?
Who do you cover?
What are you going to do?
By the way, the player reactions to this on Twitter have been awesome.
What, they can't believe it, right?
They can't believe it.
Give me one. Give me one or
Just
two.
Mahomes was like, wow. Kenny Stills just tweeted out the Russell Westbrook face of like, what's happening?
Yeah, well, he's the number one receiver now in Houston because Will Fuller can't stay healthy, right? Christian Kirk's their 3, man, and holy cow, Arizona also, by the way, has the 8th overall selection in the draft.
Yeah, that's CeeDee Lamb going to that team.
No.
Why not? Why not give Kyler Murray all the weapons?
Or you choose the best offensive lineman that's left. Right? Let's not forget here. Let's game it out. I'm enjoying this. First overall, Burrow. Second overall, Chase Young. Third overall is either Jeff Okudah because the Lions couldn't make a trade.
Or a trade, and it's
for Tua.
Right.
Then the Giants sit there at 4th and either go Mekhi Becton or another, or Tristan Wirfs, right? Or Isaiah Simmons. Then the Lions go and take Okudah or somebody else, like one of the defensive linemen potentially. The Chargers go, the Panthers go, the Cardinals are now sitting there at 8. It's entirely possible that Isaiah Simmons is sitting there too. It's entirely possible.
Maybe. DJ
that
has
Becton is sitting there, right?
DJ has Jedrick Wills from Alabama. Offensive tackle.
I'm telling you. You protect Kyler Murray so he can find these guys. And then if these guys...
But what if Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb is there?
You need to protect the guy. He's your guy. This is it.
I mean, he's running around crazy anyway back there.
No, man. You protect him.
They're playing fantasy football.
You're going to have a really, really, really good lineman sitting there. You take him.
Probably.
You protect him. You be smart. You give him time. You give him the ability to stay upright. Oh, my gosh. Fun. They're going to be a fun F-U-N team. DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald may share a room in Ohio one day, let alone the same huddle in Arizona this fall. Holy crap. When are we back? We almost there?
Yeah, we're almost
All
there.
right, let's take a break.
All right.
All right, the governor of Wisconsin, Governor Evers, just made an announcement again that they're going going to put a ban on mass gatherings of 50 or more people. So they have entered that. Critical infrastructure services such as grocery stores, food pantries, child care centers, pharmacies, and hospitals will be exempt from the order.
And Canada just closed its border.
There you go. I mean, we're all just going to start hunkering down, and the NFL is still, continuing on its business, but we're all hunkering down. And as long as we're healthy, and again, we're all 6 feet away from each other, we'll be here. But if not, you'll know why. Wow. What a story.
Dude, crazy.
What a story. Now, you want crazy on top of it? According to Mike Florio, the Bears have started a conversation with Teddy Bridgewater.
What?
Okay, Mitchell Trubisky fans, here we go. If Ryan Pace can convince ownership, my bad on that second overall pick, let's bring in Bridgewater so he can become the Tannehill to the Titans' second overall pick in Mariota. Like, let's just run that back. Let's just do that. If he can pull that trick off, that would almost be like Kaiser Soze pulling off that trick at the end of The Usual Suspects and still keep his job. Wow. All right. Alan Dallas, longtime Giant fan, heard the clarion call from all of us to say, please call in and tell Dolphins fans about that Eric Flowers signing. Al, you have the floor. Al.
Drew Rosenhaus, agent of the century. They got Eric Flowers, $19 million guaranteed on God only knows what. I mean, he is oh my God. Train your son to be a football player because anybody can make money in this league, man. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice kid and he did a nice job, but good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a long 3.5 years he was on our squad, and he just, I don't know what miracles he pulled off in Washington, but God bless. I mean, I don't know who's better, Mike McCarthy for Kirk Cousins, because the miracle contracts that he's pulled out of his arse, but this is insane. This is insane. This has been some couple of days. If I would have told you that Eric Flowers would have signed for $20 million guaranteed, or Rick Pitino is going to be storming North Avenue in New Rock City, I mean, would you believe it?
I hear you, Al. You take care of yourself. You be well. Crazy times.
It's crazy, bro.
Crazy times.
Pro Football Focus. Oh, man. They just tweeted out Deshaun Watson with the Jordan face on.
How does DeAndre Hopkins get traded? I knew it would. Again, I heard it all last year during the trade deadline. Look out for DeAndre Hopkins being on the move in Houston. I'm like, what? And they're like, yep. It's not what it's cracked up to be there. I'm like, the guy's one of the best in the league. He's 27 years old. I mean, one of the best stories in the league with him and his mother. I mean, like, why would you take him away from, he and Deshaun Watson can ride off into the Canton, Ohio sunset together. Like, what, why are we breaking that up? What's the point of that? I mean, and if you need to figure out how to spend the money on it, figure out how to spend the money on it. What are we doing here? And again, David Johnson of 2 years ago, if that guy shows up in Houston, okay, him and Deshaun Watson can do some serious damage together too, if Will Fuller stays healthy, and if they come up together, Kenny Stills and whoever they draft, maybe at the wide receiver position, they don't have a first-round draft choice. That belongs to Miami. So, they needed to get these draft choices. I get it. But Kenyon Drake is a great guy there in Arizona, made David Johnson completely expendable. He had just 17 carries in 5 games after Kenyon Drake arrived in Arizona. And he was one of those scratches every single weekend. Well, John McClain is calling in from Houston to give us the perspective there. Chris Brockman's news update on News Poppin' Everywhere. And Brent Musburger, hour 3. Don't go anywhere. Hey, YouTube fans! Every single show on occasion will come on. Well, we'll come on during commercial breaks. Every single commercial break on our radio show will be here. We'll sometimes go stroll down memory lane, and certainly this day and age, we need a good laugh. The great Jeffrey Ross, the Roastmaster General, was here. Take a look. How many planks do you have to break to be a black belt? How many do you have to? Is that an actual metric here?
I don't think there's a number, but I think it's when the pressure's on, when the tournaments happen, when the tests happen. Why? I'll break one right now if you need one.
Do we have one anywhere? Can we get a plank for this?
The hot take plank, but don't break
got the hot take plank.
Hot take plank. I mean, why not?
It's a 2x4 that's right there.
What kind of wood is it?
Now you got me. I have no idea.
Let me see it.
Hold on.
Standard plywood, I'm guessing.
Get ready to cancel my show at Morongo tomorrow. I have a broken hand.
The sweatshirt, you haven't taken it off in years.
This would be amazing.
Here, feel
if
that.
you could break this.
Is that a proper?
I could break this. I haven't done this since I was 12.
Okay, do you want to give it a try if you think you can do it?
But this is what I learned at the House of Empty Hands in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, very good. Here you go.
Did it break? Hold on.
If I hold it down, would that be better?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Chris, you hold it on the other side.
Hold it on the side, Chris. All right, it's going. Pull it out a little bit more. So the end is on the box.
You don't even have any. You don't have any music from Karate Kid?
If he gets it, Gloria Love, I'll play Gloria Love.
Here we go.
Forget it. Damn it! I really thought I could do it, Rich. I really thought I could do it.
It's okay, Jeff. We still love you.
It's all right.
What we're gonna do right here is go back into time.
Previously on the Rich Eisen Show.
Jeff Van Gundy back here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Gobert acknowledged his reckless acts, but we have to remember how young these people are and how immune they believe themselves to be. He should have and could have done it better, but he can help to educate now. I thought his apology struck just the right tone. He didn't try to dodge how cavalier he was with the whole situation and wants to help.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now.
Y'all ready for this?
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
If we have the knowledge, then we have the power.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
We are very dependent on each other. How you behave will influence my health. You should think about it that you're doing it not just for yourself, but for the people around you, the people you love, and, sort of the global community.
Let's all do our part.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
And stay calm.
Earlier on the show, from NBC Sports, Peter King. Coming up, Las Vegas Raiders voice, Brent Musburger. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Hour number 3 of the Rich Eisen Show on the air. And, man, every time the NFL has a free agency period, we're all expecting for big shoes to drop going into the 2-day pre-free agency official league year window opens. When that window and the 2 days before opens, there's always a surprise every year involving a player you wouldn't think would ever be on the move. And that just happened in the last hour. It happened while Peter King was on the air. Live with us. We're taking your phone calls, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Adam Schefter tweeting out. The first thing we heard is David Johnson was going to Houston from Arizona. And then Adam Schefter chimes in with, the guy going back is DeAndre Hopkins. What? And then our buddy John McClain from the Houston Chronicle chimes in with the details. DeAndre Hopkins and a 4th-round pick goes to Arizona for David Johnson and a 2nd-round pick this year and a 4th-round pick next year. Again, the phone line to dial, 844-204-RICH. We will take your call. Brent Musburger is going to be calling in the middle after John and Chris Brockman's news update. We've got Musburger, Brent calling in because Vegas is shutting down. I mean, our whole country, as we all know, is shutting down. We need to have social distancing happening so we can flatten the curve, so the number of COVID-19 cases doesn't spike up so fast that it overwhelms our healthcare system. We need to separate. We need to sit at home if we can, and we need to stay away from large crowds, and we need to be smart. We are all sitting 6 feet away from each other here on the Rich Eisen Show. None of us are going out to bars. None of us are going out of our homes except to do whatever's necessary to help stay in front of this. So as long as we're healthy and everybody in our families are healthy, we're going to keep doing this. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. But Chris Brockman's news update brought to you by our friends at Honda. And it is brought to you by our friends in particular, the Honda HR-V, which has got a lot to offer. And the exterior adds a fresh style to this Honda favorite. Enjoy more room for your adventures and road trips. That's Chris Brockman's news update, which will lead to John McClain's conversation. Go for it.
And now, with a report of the day's news from the world of sports and entertainment, someone who is not a journalist or newsman by any definition of the word whatsoever, it's Chris Brockman.
So the story is amazing, huh? It's
amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's totally bananas. The Houston Texans and Arizona Cardinals monster trade. The Cardinals get DeAndre Hopkins and a 4th-round pick from Houston going to Houston. David Johnson, a 2nd-round pick this year and a 4th-round pick next year.
Yeah, and the Houston Texans don't have a 1st-round pick this year and needed to replenish in any way, shape, or form that they possibly could, because in their 2nd round, they were sitting down there far lower than they wanted. Now they're sitting at 40th overall with Arizona, and now they've got the 57th overall pick. And joining us here, kind enough to call in on short notice, is our buddy who's been covering Houston sports since the mid-'70s from the Houston Chronicle, John McClain. How are you today, John?
I'm doing great. Rich, how are you?
I'm doing fine right here on the Capital One guest line in the middle of our news update. I appreciate you providing this information. Where did this come from, John? Why did this happen?
DeAndre Hopkins wants a new contract. He's got 3 years left on his contract. They were not going to redo a deal with 3 years left, even though Bill O'Brien is the general manager and he has control of everything now. The most they've ever done was Andre Johnson and J.J. Watt had 2 years left, and they're just not going to do it. And so it's a good year for receivers. This becomes their number one priority, considering they have Kenny Stills and Will Fuller in the last year of their contract, and then Fuller can't stay healthy. This becomes a big priority in free agency and the draft.
So you're saying they were receiving information from DeAndre Hopkins or his camp that he might not show up this year with 3 years left on his deal, so why not go ahead and deal him now? Is that essentially?
Well, I know they're worried about that, but I know he wants a new contract. When he signed it, he got $49 million guaranteed, most in NFL history for a receiver, and he's going to make $12.5 million this year, $13.5 million next year, and that doesn't put him among the league leaders. He's coming off another first-team All-Pro selection, another Pro Bowl. And Deshaun Watson, of course, he's their second most important offensive player to Deshaun Watson, and that takes a huge chunk out of this offense, and I don't know how they're going to replace it.
That's so, my gosh, John, that's the question I have for you here is that how does this get sold to the rest of the team and Deshaun Watson? I mean, isn't this one of the most popular players that's in that locker room?
Oh, yeah, but they don't have to sell it. You know, Bill O'Brien's in charge. Just like on that Laramie Tunsil, Kenny Stills deal, the fans went crazy, media went crazy. As you can imagine here right now, fans and media are going crazy. And but, you know, the only person he's got to sell it to is the owner, Cal McNair, and obviously he signed off on it.
So what do you think this means for the offense, John? I mean, I guess then I'll ask this question: would this deal have gotten done if Bill O'Brien wasn't the general manager as
If
well?
they'd have redone the deal with 3 years left, absolutely not. They would not do that and set that kind of precedent for any player, and they wouldn't have done it under Brian Gaine or Rick Smith or Charlie Casserly, because that's just not the way they've operated, and not many teams do with that much time left. It's obvious O'Brien likes David Johnson. He had a great second year. He's had injury issues. He's a backup to Kenyon Drake. It's a great deal for Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. Think about how happy Kyler Murray ought to be right now compared to Deshaun Watson.
John, appreciate the time. I know you got your time was short here, and you're on the case for some other news going on. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call.
Thank you very much, Rich.
You got it. Thanks, John. I'll tell you what, fans will not accept that answer. That's not an answer that they're willing to accept.
No,
so
definitely not.
They'll say pay the man. I mean, 3 years out is a very long time.
Yes.
But do you know how many times that there's been a showdown or a stare down or like, hey, stick with it. As soon as this year's done, you get it. Or remember what happened with Marshawn Lynch, that the Seahawks and them figured it out?
Guy's been All-Pro the last 3 years, 31 touchdowns, over 100 catches per season.
So it's a monetary thing. It's not anything else. It's a money thing. That's what it's not.
Sounds like it.
Or they couldn't figure out how to make the trade.
But the trade
they couldn't figure out how to head off at the pass, some sort of a holdout.
But to trade for a running back with injury history the last 3 seasons, who essentially got benched last year, and who's approaching 30, all of the red flags in acquiring David Johnson. All right, other news pop in.
Hold on, I just want to throw out here right now that was brought to you by our friends at Capital One, which is reimagined banking by offering savings and checking accounts with no fees or minimums and one of the nation's best savings rates. Capital One, what's in your wallet? What do you have over there, Chris?
All right, other news. The Cleveland Browns are looking to make Austin Hooper the highest paid tight end in football. Mike Silver saying this might lead to a possible trade of Jarvis Landry or Odell Beckham. Could you see that happening?
Sure.
After it was just a year ago that Odell got traded to Cleveland.
Dude.
After Dave Gettleman said he's not trading Odell.
DeAndre Hopkins just got traded. DeAndre Hopkins is a 27-year-old who has a Hall of Fame resume and nothing on his off-the-field resume that would create any reason to get rid of this guy. He's hugely popular in the locker room. He's hugely popular in the fan base. And he wants a new contract with 3 years to go. The answer usually in the NFL is like, we love you. You're here for forever. We will take care of you. You know, and you got to sit it out. And I'll be honest as well. I mean, you take a look at what's going on. you have to sit here and wonder what the summer is going to look like in this world, and if training camps start on time or anything starting on time. I mean, we have no idea. So hey, DeAndre, sit back. We don't know what the landscape of the world is going to look like right now. You got 3 years left on your deal, and we can't set that precedence. We didn't set it for J.J. Watt. We didn't set it for Andre Johnson, whose records you have a chance to break. I mean, there's so many ways to handle it other than just get him out of here. Wow. Again, he's like Coach Dale with his 4 players on the floor, a 5th guy on the bench who refused to put in the game because his plan is his plan, and he doesn't care how many fans are howling at the moon. And also, this team had a gajillion touchdown lead on the eventual Super Bowl champs.
Yeah,
and
in the playoffs,
and they just traded away their best offensive weapon for their young stud.
All right, other deals that have been announced. The Niners broke the bank for Eric Armstead, 5 years, $85 million.
Avoiding a franchise tag there.
For the Gold Crush member.
I just like the way John Lynch goes about his business, brother.
Cowboys signing Blake Jarwin, tight end, 3-year extension worth up to $24 million.
Right.
The Patriots released a statement on franchise tagging Joe Thuney. Joe's been a model teammate, essential to our success. Utilizing the franchise designation allows both sides more time to reach the goal of a long-term agreement. He had been mentioned in trade talks.
Mm-hmm.
Talks are underway. So Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, reporting. Talks underway between the Bears and Teddy Bridgewater.
Holy crap.
On a deal that would likely make him the starter in Chicago.
Of course. But why would Teddy Bridgewater sign in another place where he's got to earn the right to start? Why would he do that?
He would not.
The guy went 5-0.
He would not.
For the New Orleans Saints. He has proven it. He's back. He's healthy. He's good. Why in the world would he take this free agency off of that performance and go ahead and say, I'll sign before the new league year begins. I'll sign in a spot where I got to earn my way in. And man, Ryan Pace, the general manager, if he's able to sell to management there, I'm the guy who traded up from 3-2 to take Trubisky over Mahomes and Watson. I'm that guy, and now I'm telling you, let's pay Teddy Bridgewater a ton of money and still be able to keep his gig. That is like a Kaiser Soze trick. That is amazing. Now, it would be up to the coach to help make it cash. That's for sure. And I'll tell you what, it's not a bad move.
So we're entering year 4, Mitch Trubisky, right?
It's not a bad move. You're going to have to figure out what you're doing in a 5th-year option, and you could basically say, that's it, Mitch. Adios.
Yeah.
And also, he's your backup. Not a bad move. And Teddy Bridgewater's back in a division he knows all too well, in which a division he won once.
What is it going to take to sign Teddy, though?
Less than, I think, Tannehill money. Don't you think? I mean,
not sure.
I would think less than Tannehill money. And how good does the Garoppolo annual salary of $25 per look right now as we're sitting here talking?
Looks real good.
That's
why it never made sense. Like everyone said, it didn't make sense for the 49ers to want to move on.
The fact that Jameis Winston did not get franchise tag means he can walk. He can walk in 2 days. Wow. What else do you have?
Last one real quick. Rob Manfred spoke today. A lot of speculation on when Major League Baseball might start up. Saw maybe June yesterday. Saw July today. Manfred didn't say anything about that, but did say they are not going to start the season on April 9th. He's not going to speculate. Owners are still hopeful to play a full schedule.
I don't know how they do that.
A lot of double dips.
I don't know how they do that. I mean, the CDC said 30 days for at least no more than 50 people, right, for the next 8 weeks?
Yes.
So that's more than 60 days?
60 days.
We're talking about mid-May. How do you play 162 games?
I don't know. It seems like maybe a 100-game season could be salvageable if you're going to start in July.
You play half a year.
July 4th opening day,
Play
maybe?
half a year and give the All-Star game back to Los Angeles another year, and you start them, or that's the exhibition welcomes back people to baseball.
An All-Star game to start the year?
But again, we have no idea. We have no idea what is going to happen with this virus, because apparently a vaccine is months away. I just read that the first patient in Seattle just received the first iteration of the vaccine, and it's going to take months to see if it holds and if it works. First of all, I hope it works for that person, because I'm sure that person, just whoever took it, very courageous, or maybe it was so necessary for this person to take it. We'll take a break. More of your phone calls, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. The great, legendary Brent Musburger. We'll talk about what's going on in Vegas as that city's shutting down, what it means to the people in that industry of sports gambling and books. And are the Raiders talking to Tom Brady right now? Is Mayock somehow on the phone with TB12 as we're talking? What is going on there? He's the voice of
You caught yourself.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
Good job.
That's next here on The Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk about the Honda HR-V a little bit more, people. It's springtime. We're all antsy to potentially go take a road trip. And if we can, this is a terrific vehicle just for you. The 2020 Honda HR-V has a lot to offer. A bold exterior adds fresh style. The 60/40 second row split gives you more room for those adventures and road trips that we're talking about. And you could take on all the terrain with the available all-wheel drive. Okay, mountain, mud, snow, anything. The available heated front seat and the touch-based automatic climate control system, part of the bells and whistles, including the Honda sensing. I'm telling you, if you need any sort of assistance, if you're maybe putting a younger individual behind the wheel of a car, Honda sensing is so crucial. It's a suite of driver and assistive technologies that lets you know if you need a break, if you're leaving your lane, if you're swaying out of any lane. It lets you know also, like I said, know when to stop. It's great. So check out the 2020 Honda HR-V today and tell them the Rich Eisen Show sent you. The great Brent Musburger when we return. Okay, welcome back to our program. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on the show. We appreciate John McClain calling in like that. Money.
That is insane. Imagine proposing that trade in your fantasy league. You'd get kicked
out.
I
said 2 years ago, though, you don't take it if you drafted David Johnson, right?
Well, he was.
That was the year he's a waiver wire pickup. Remember that?
Yes, but then going into 2017, he was the number one player. Remember, we were sitting here talking about who do you take number one? David Johnson.
Look at this. Don Bowie, our CP's putting that up there. So it was 2016. He led the NFL in scrimmage yards and scrimmage touchdowns. That was the year that he took over injury rise, right?
Yeah, came out of nowhere.
Was that when Chris Johnson was there? CJ2K was their guy, and then David Johnson started taking things over, and then he broke his wrist in week 1 of the 2017 season. I remember that was in Detroit, right? He broke his wrist
after being the number one pick in every draft.
That season was a total washout.
Yeah, he took over. He took over for Chris Johnson in 2016,
and then Bruce Arians in that system crushed it with him. And he talked about how he reminded Bruce of Franco Harris. If that guy can do that for the Houston Texans, and they can draft somebody 40th overall, they can get a very good. I mean, DJ was talking about you can get a first-round receiver in the second round, you can get a third-round receiver in the fifth round, you can get and DK Metcalf last year. But those guys all, however, need to be brought along. Wow, trading DeAndre Hopkins. The Cardinals Steve Keim must have been like, okay, got it.
Bananas.
And they kept their first-round selection.
Yeah, how quickly did Steve Keim say yes to that deal?
And they have got the 8th overall. So you take the big, huge lineman to protect your young franchise offensive player of the year quarterback. Dude, last year everyone's wondering, what are the Cardinals doing? Do they know what they're doing? They hired this guy, Cliff Kingsbury.
Got rid of Josh Rosen.
What are we doing? What are they doing? How do they handle it?
Kyler Murray, number 1.
Kudos to them. Smart moves. Or, I mean, at this point in time. Wow.
Have they locked up the Rex Ryan Award of winning the offseason?
I don't know. We'll see who gets Brady. Don't forget, TB12 sitting out there, man. That's beginning. You're hearing nothing right now, right? There's nothing online right now.
Nothing really. Charles Robinson of Yahoo said he thinks the Bucs go all in on Brady. If they miss, they go for Bridgewater.
Well, I don't know if Bridgewater will be there for him.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I can't believe the
Where
Bears.
does Jameis wind up?
Out here?
No, didn't Peter King say going to Pittsburgh as the backup to Big Ben?
Yeah.
Would be really great for him?
Assuming Ben's got 1 year left. That's what Peter was speculating.
I think Ben's not going anywhere.
What about out here for Jameis?
I think Ben's farewell from Pittsburgh is going to make Favre's look tame.
Wait, meaning what? Like year to year, he's just like, man, I'm thinking about
there's
it.
Some sort. There's the drama factor that Favre had leaving Green Bay. That has the potential there in Pittsburgh.
When Big Ben officially announces his retirement, will he be wearing a walking boot?
Probably.
You're too much. All right, we'll take a break. The great Brent Musburger when we come back in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. He's one of my favorite people that I've gotten a chance to meet in this business. I love chatting with him, and certainly these are interesting times for the city of Las Vegas and the Las Vegas Raiders and everything about it. He is the managing editor of Eisen. He is the legendary Brent Musburger. How are you, Brent?
I'm fine, Rich, under the under the circumstances, and I know you and I and everybody on your show wishes nothing but the best, especially for our medical personnel who are working around the clock to treat victims of this horrible virus. And but the one thing I did notice today, and I know there was controversy about the NFL going with the date to start the season and have the talk about free agency. I thought it was a good distraction. I thought it was needed. I know that, and I'm speaking personally.
Yep.
I really enjoyed going over and listening to the shows talk about where will Tom Brady wind up, and on and on. It was because, I think you can lock yourself up with the tragedies for just so long. We're all addicted to social media, all of us. I think there's no question about that. And we pick up our phone and immediately we go to see what the latest bulletins are, and they're depressing. And I thought the NFL offered us an escape today. And obviously it's very disappointing for the city of Las Vegas to lose the upcoming draft. But there will be other drafts down the road that will come to Las Vegas. But now we can talk about the draft because the NFL is going to hold it the last week of April. And obviously, as you know, they can do that on a teleconference, and you can wire up certain places for the NFL Network, and ESPN will do the same. So at least we have, because talking about the NFL offers hope, because their season doesn't start until the first week of September. So I know, and I'm really speaking personally.
Right.
I enjoyed the talk very, very much, and like everybody else, and yourself included, we're all interested in where Tom Brady is going to wind up, and it, we can't do too much. We're kind of in quarantine, locked up, staying away from our usual hangouts, and it offered me a good escape.
Well, before we can escape together down some of those questions about the NFL and about the Tom Brady watch and whether the Raiders are in on it, I do want to, however, hit what is going on in your town there and what it looks like and what the lack of sports means for the community there. Brent, I want to give you the floor and talk about people who are affected and what we should know about in your estimation.
Well, full disclosure now, I drove out of Las Vegas and I'm up at our place in Montana with the family. But I have spoken to people who are on the scene. Derek Stevens, who owns several casinos downtown and is building the new one on Fremont Street, Circa, and is a huge sports fan. He was the first to alert me to the fact that the Strip was virtually deserted. And following that, about 24 hours later, of course, MGM and Wynn both announced that they were shutting down their casinos for the time being. Now, when MGM shuts down, Rich, that involves 20 separate casinos. They also own the Bellagio, the Mirage, and you can go on and on with the list, including 3 casinos right there around the T-Mobile Center where the Vegas Golden Knights were playing, and Mandalay Bay, which is right across from Interstate 15 from where Allegiant Stadium is being built. Now, work continues on Allegiant Stadium, and much construction outside, of course, keeps the workers a little bit away from each other. There's not collection of workers, but as they get closer and closer, they're putting on the roof, and it's a permanent roof. It's not retractable. When they do that, then, of course, there will be a cluster of workers on the inside. Now, everybody around the Raiders, keeping their fingers crossed that construction will not slow down. And on August 22nd, which is a Saturday, Garth Brooks is due to have a concert in Allegiant Stadium. Whether or not there will be a preseason game or whether or not UNLV is able to play California, which is a game on the schedule before that, none of us really know. The first date that has been scheduled, and again, it's for the time being when you're everything that's going on, is August 22nd, and they hope they can get it done. Now, Derek Stevens told me that downtown, and of course these are issues which caused New York, Illinois, Ohio to close down their restaurants and their bars. There were large crowds gathering around the casinos on Fremont Street. Now, of course, in view of the fact that the CDC wants clusters of 50 people broken up and basically to stay apart and don't socialize as much, they feel that that's one of the weapons in fighting this horrible virus. I would guess that the crowds down there will start to fade away. Obviously, it's going to be an enormous hit on the city of Las Vegas, and I feel so badly as everyone else does for the part-time workers and those who are being laid off. I saw that Wynn was trying to keep on as many employees as they could. Meanwhile, MGM has already started announcing layoffs, and of course they're much bigger with all the properties that they have. The local casinos, such as Stations, the South Point, where the VSiN studio is, owned by Michael Gaughan, they are still open. The restaurants are still open, but the crowds are way, way down. And, of course, the casinos depend on large crowds. Conventions have been canceled, most of them. None of the conventioneers will be coming to Las Vegas, and we don't know when that will get repaired and restored. But it's an example of the financial hit that the entire country is going to take as a result of this. You can feel for the airline industry and their employees, certainly the cruise ship industry. Anybody involved in travel or leisure activities is suffering an enormous financial hit. But in the long run, if what we know is accurate with regarding this virus, and we should stay away from large crowds, and we will come out of it. Now, I think, and this is personal opinion, I think the earliest we can count on any kind of restoration of activities is Memorial Day. I had originally hoped it was going to be the end of April, but I'm seeing signs that that's not going to be the case. And obviously, the industries in Las Vegas where I live, they're dependent on tourism and tourists, conventions coming in, and the excitement generated by the new stadium, Allegiant Stadium, where the Las Vegas Raiders will play. But there is hope that we're going to have an entire NFL season. And what you have going forward for you is you have hope that there's something down the road. And none of us, you don't give up on something like this. You listen to the good advice that the experts have. You go on about your business because life eventually has to go on. As far as the sports betting industry is concerned, you and I have talked about this before.
Yes, Brent.
Football reigns. There's no question about it. Nothing else is even close to it. And so obviously this optimism going through free agency, the draft, and then thinking about, I think opening day is set for around September 6th in Kansas City, because I noticed that the Royals have canceled their game that night and have gone to a doubleheader on Tuesday, which obviously means that MLB and NFL officials have been talking about when the opening game is going to be held for the Super Bowl champs. But that gives us a little hope to look down the future and things. Yes, Las Vegas, the situation is bleak for VSiN. But, we hope to stay healthy, and the country hopes to come out of this. But it's going to be some tough times. I think we all know that.
No doubt, Brent. Brent Musburger here on the Rich Eisen Show. Well put, as always. So let's stroll down, I guess, the fun escapist wormhole for a few more minutes here. In your estimation, the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2020 would be who?
I'll say Derek Carr, only because I like him so much as a young man.
Right.
And I get the chatter. I understand it. The Raiders don't have to sell tickets. And so, whereas the Chargers do have to sell tickets, you and I both know in Los Angeles, they're the second team. I always thought that Tom Brady made more sense with the Chargers than the Raiders, Rich. Because of that, I would not be surprised if the Raiders don't draft a quarterback at some point in the upcoming draft, someone to come in underneath Derek Carr and work there. I went back and looked, Rich, at some of the teams that had changed cities. Most recent, I guess, would be the Rams. Well, no, the Chargers that. But the Rams going into from St. Louis into Los Angeles, very difficult first year. And I think it's going to be a very difficult year for the Raiders. You can just imagine what this has done to all those folks that have to move logistically.
Right.
They're finishing up new offices. You've got to have moving company. Now you've been slowed down by this buying of houses. But at any rate, I would make Derek Carr the favorite to open as John Gruden's quarterback in year 3 of his tenure as head coach.
So do you think the Raiders are maybe kicking the tires on Tom, communicating with him in any way, shape, or form, or that's just not really happening based on your potential knowledge in
I
this?
would think they would kick the tires. I have very limited knowledge. I am aware of where they're seriously looking at free agents, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And my list did not include Brady. Now, they might not want to include me or somebody else in that. I understand that. But it appears in the list I went through, which is sort of interesting, because it did include one offensive player, Kenyon Drake, who was franchised today early by Arizona. And, of course, the reason why is that the Cardinals traded David Johnson a short time after that and acquired DeAndre Hopkins from Houston.
What'd you think?
Was the most surprising.
Yeah, I was about to say, what'd you think of that trade, Brent? What'd you think of that one?
Well, I'm a big fan of DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so in the short term, I give the Cardinals a big grade on that. Give me Kyler Murray, one of the great ball catchers that I've been around in the league, and then when he played at Clemson, also covered him down there. Now, you have to say, hold on about Houston, because they've still got a couple of draft choices down the road, and let's see what they do with the additional second round. David Johnson, to me, Rich, has not played as well, and I think you're as well aware of this as I am, since the injury. And Kenyon Drake was picked up by the Cardinals from Miami and was very, very good as a running back. And obviously, the Raiders have Jacobs as their star and starter, but Drake would have given them a little bit of depth back there at position, along with Jalen Richard as the third down pass blocking specialist. So I was surprised, to tell you the truth, when that news broke. I think that's the biggest development of the day, and I think it gives the Cardinals a stand. You put him with Fitzgerald, who's in probably the final year of a Hall of Fame career, can work underneath, and DeAndre can work a little bit deeper. Those are good weapons. And, of course, the Cardinals are in my mind, the toughest division of them all, and that's the NFC West right now.
Brent Musburger, a few minutes left with Brent here on the Rich Eisen Show. If there's any city that you know many cities in this great country very well. Chicago's definitely one of them, and report is that Teddy Bridgewater might be on the way there. How do you think that plays out if Teddy Bridgewater winds up in Chicago, Brent?
I'm a huge fan of Teddy Bridgewater. Wherever he goes, I think he's going to be a success. Mitchell Trubisky was an overreach when they traded up to take him down. They took him ahead of, a couple of great prospects as quarterbacks, including Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
So Mitchell, he had not played enough at North Carolina, Rich, really. He'd not taken enough snaps. I was always wondering about that because I'd covered colleges and he wasn't a discussed quarterback. When you went around the country, people didn't openly talk about him. I'm sure he's a fine young man. Not trying to say anything negative about him as an individual. And if you go back to that one playoff game, he brought the Bears down, and then it was a field goal, the double clanger that cost him moving on in the playoffs. So, but I'm not surprised. But to go back to Bridgewater, to be able to come back from that horrendous injury and the way he's handled himself. And then I thought one of the best streaks in the league last year was when he stepped in for the injured Drew Brees and led the Saints to 5 consecutive wins. I thought that was one of the great quarterbacking performances of the season. So I wish Teddy nothing but the best. Wherever he goes, I think he'll be successful.
All right, Brent, I wanted to reach out because obviously this is significant for so many communities. Las Vegas was first on my mind, knowing that the draft might not happen, and then that was the case today with the league saying that they're going to run it out of, I'm assuming, New York City, and it'll still be televised by my network and ESPN. And I thought of you, and I just think of you because you're a treasure, man, and I hope you're taking care of yourself. And it seems like you're holed up there in Montana, and I'm thrilled to hear that.
Yeah, obviously great to be surrounded by family and everybody up here in Montana. But I wish the same for you and your entire staff and all your great viewers and listeners. And but the one thing I want to have a little lighter note. I want to know, when you ran the 40 at Indy this year, were you a tick slower than the previous year? I was a tick faster. However, oh, good.
However, George Kittle came to time me from the 49ers, a wonderful guy. He and his wife donated to St. Jude. He may have given me a gracious flick of the finger. He may or may not have. I don't know. But I'm going to take that 5.97 and literally and figuratively run with it, Brent.
All right, my man. Best to you and the family.
Right back at you. Thanks for the call, Brent. That's Brent Musburger,
well, Brent.
The great Brent Musburger. Vegas Stats and Info Network, you mentioned VSiN. The whole city shutting down. And right now, the Raiders and Tom Brady might be talking, might not. He said that he heard, how about Kenyon Drake would have been on their list to do that?
Nice 1-2 punch.
I know Josh Jacobs amazing
Jacobs.
And terrific, but
Yeah.
He didn't finish the season. Those things happen for rookies. Interesting, very interesting. We'll take a break. Your phone calls at 844-204-RICH, number to dial. There is Phillip Rivers news. There's also another Dolphins signing. This one is particularly significant. And
another trade.
And another trade. All that's next right here on this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH. It is the 16th of March, is it not?
Fact.
So it would be 3/16, correct?
Fact.
And that day is which?
Stone Cold Day.
Stone Cold Steve Austin Day. 3/16 like at the University of North Texas that you got a full scholarship to play football there. What were you like in your days?
Highly competitive, Rich, but that was big back when North Texas was a Division II school. They're Division I now.
Uh-huh.
We were out there running 40s, and I came from junior college, and in high school I was a running back and a linebacker, and I wasn't fast enough to run around you, so I ran over you, and so we're out there running 40s, and Corky Nelson was our coach at North Texas, and we're out there running. And my last name used to be Williams, and he's got this perplexed look on his face. He goes, "Williams, come here." And I said, "Yeah, Coach, what do you want?" He goes, "You're running a 4.9. I said, "Yeah, I always run a 4.9. He goes, your coach at Wharton said you ran a 4.7. I said, "Coach, I ain't never run a 4.7 in my life." "Williams, get out of here." So I was that guy from me to you, quickest guy on the team, if there's a sandwich or a beer involved, But once you start stretching it out past that, I blew my ACL out on a kickoff coverage about the third game of my junior season. Spent all season rehabbing. Came back and started all 11 games next year at weak side defensive end. A little undersized, started not really a disciplined player.
Yeah.
And as much as I love football and pro football, hell, I wasn't even close to making a grade.
Okay, so the most talented athlete you were ever in the ring with would be who?
Man.
Where okay, this person can really move around, or this person can really do this, or whatever.
Ron Simmons.
Why is that?
Ron was a two-time All-American at Florida State University, defensive tackle. I mean, why he didn't play pro football, I don't know. But that guy, they still know who Ron Simmons is at Florida State. And then you could go to, Kurt Angle, who won a gold medal in the '96 Olympics with a broken neck. And then from a strength standpoint, Mark Henry, the world's strongest man, I mean, he's legitimately the world's strongest man. So guys like that, there's so many physical specimens in that line of work. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, right. Well, obviously you're one of them. I mean, who named you Steve Austin? Where'd you come up with that?
I was Steve Williams, and in Dallas, Texas, when I was getting my start, I went to Tennessee. The booker was a guy named Dutch Mantell. I drove my 1988 Hyundai Excel over there to the Mid-South Coliseum, and I walk into, I've been in business 3 months, and I walk in, and back in the old days, there was a guy from the University of Oklahoma named Dr. Death Steve Williams. So I couldn't use that name because it would cause confusion on the card. So Dutch Mantell looks at me and says, "All right, you're Steve Austin." And I said, "Well, I don't want to be Steve Austin because I had respected the $6 million man. And I didn't want to copy that."
Sure.
So he goes, "You got 15 minutes to come up with a name." So 15 minutes goes by. I couldn't come up with nothing. He says, "You're Steve Austin." I said, "No." He goes, "You got 5 minutes to come up with a name." This is right before I'm fixing to go out, Rich. Your last name, your whole name has a big effect on your career.
Of course.
So finally he says, basically get your ass out there. You're Steve Austin. And that's how I got it.
That's how. So it has nothing to do with the fact that you're from Austin? That literally.
No, and I always said I was from Victoria, Texas, which is a town I used to live in.
Okay.
But if I would have said Steve Austin from Austin, Texas, too redundant, no real panache or ring to it. So when I finally came up with that Stone Cold Steve Austin thing, I told him, I said, I want to be from Victoria, Texas, because I wanted to be opposite of everybody else who wanted to be from a big city, with a lot of glamour to it.
So that's how it's I mean, it's kind of worked out for
Victoria,
you.
Texas had a little bit of je ne sais quoi to it, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, man, that sounds kind of cool. Where is it?
Well, I understand because, I mean, if there's a similarity here, is that when I was first trying to get on TV, I had a resume reel from Northwestern School of Journalism, Medill School of Journalism. So I grew up, my parents still call me Richard, but I wasn't going to be a sportscaster, Richard Eisen. And the question was, in high school they were calling me Richie. I don't know, like, here's Richie with sports. And then the one thing that definitely I wasn't going to go with Dick Eisen. I just wasn't going to go with that.
Yeah.
It's just, even though Enberg did very well with that name,
Yes.
just didn't fit. So I went with Rich, and that was kind of it.
But there's got to be that kind of thing that and I'm looking at right there on your logo.
Right.
It looks right and sounds right.
It is right.
It is.
It is right.
For more.
Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. How did Callaway create their most advanced tour ball from cover to core to make their best performing tour ball ever? The new Chrome Soft delivers an unmatched combination of speed, consistency, spin, and control. It's a ball built for total performance. It's the reason why Phil and Xander Schauffele and other great tour players around the world are relying on it. And the new 2020 Chrome Soft and Chrome Soft X are both available with alignment-enhancing triple track technology. There's 3 lines on the ball. You line it up, you hit it, and it really helps to improve things. It's amazing. The ball changes everything. Get your new Chrome Soft or Chrome Soft X golf balls today at CallawayGolf.com. The Capital One fan phone line is brought to you by, yes, Capital One, which is reimagined banking by offering savings and checking accounts with no fees or minimums and one of the nation's best savings rates. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Let's go to the phone lines right now. Jonathan in Richmond, Virginia has been hanging on for a bit. What's up, Jonathan?
How's it going, Rich? Thank you for putting on the show. I know a lot of us that are teleworking, really appreciate it. I really just wanted to say, as a Chargers fan, I know all about bad management, lost seasons, missed opportunities, but what Bill O'Brien is doing to the Texans is absolutely ridiculous. And at what point do you just say enough? And then for Deshaun Watson, as a young quarterback, what are you thinking about when your best offensive weapon gets traded? I mean, do you want out? I mean, do you just put your head down and keep working hard? I mean, what do you do if you're him?
Well, you just put your head down and keep working hard. I mean, and you're probably wondering what in the world's happening. And he's the one, thanks to the call, who after the disastrous blown lead in Kansas City to end the season, Deshaun Watson's the one who took the podium and said Bill O'Brien's the right man for the job, when he knew, he was already sensing that people were wondering if Bill O'Brien needed to lose his gig based on the decision-making that happened in that game. Look, we need to see the team that they put around him and see how well it fares. And that's only going to take some time. But right now, you have to sit here and think, how in the world, based on what John McClain, when he called in the show at the top of the hour to say that Hopkins wanted a new deal with 3 years left in the contract, and they were unwilling to do it. And I guess whatever went back and forth between the two sides, they figured now is the time to trade him, as opposed to waiting and basically saying, what are you going to hold out? Play one more year. And then with 2 years left on the deal, that's what we do for you, like we did for Andre Johnson, like we did for J.J. Watt. For some reason, we're now hearing, well, it was too untenable to sit there and let it play out with a pandemic that might actually delay the season coming. I mean, like, you put the real world and the actual sports world and the conversation together, and it really doesn't compute, especially when, is that all you can get for him? Is a guy who's pushing 30 at the running back position, who hasn't done much since 2016, and a second-round pick and a and you swap fourth-round picks? Like, that's the best? Wouldn't somebody be out there raising their hand saying, we'll give you a 1 for him?
Especially when you don't have a 1.
I don't know.
To get one back.
Like, is this the best deal they could have gotten? Now, letting Clowney go, people were howling at the moon about that and how much they gave up for Tunsil and Stills. I mean, those guys are pretty important parts of the team. Certainly Stills now with Hopkins gone. Let's go back to the phone lines right now. Mike in Miami. What's going on, Mike? You there, Mike? Put Mike back on hold. Let's go to Eli in Pittsburgh. What's up, Eli?
As a Titans fan, I'm really happy with Bill O'Brien right now.
I bet.
I couldn't be happier. My question is, with Tannehill getting re-signed, which is a great deal, Henry getting franchise tags, how important do you think it is for the Titans to now get Jack Conklin under contract?
Oh, man. Look, if they could run it back from last year and then obviously add a little bit here and a little bit there, you're in good shape. I'd like the Tannehill deal, and they do have to sign Conklin. Thanks for the call, man. I think that's a smart target right there, and I think John Robinson's pretty smart, and I think they know what to do. Run it back. Run it back. And as long as Derrick Henry's not going to sit there and say, screw you for franchise tagging me, I'm not showing up. Not many people do that. I think they're going to run this thing back and figure out how to pay Henry a little bit more long term. Maybe I'm being naive. Shaq Lawson is leaving the Bills to go rush the passer for the Dolphins. That's an interesting maneuver. Here I am earlier saying, the Dolphins, I don't know what they're going to do in free agency, and that's a pretty big maneuver.
2 big moves today.
right? And then the trade, you got the trade stats right there? I've got it on the screen. I got this right
there
here.
you go.
So Austin Hooper signs a huge contract with the Browns.
Looks like $44 million.
That's a lot of money. And then the Atlanta Falcons replace him on the spot by acquiring Hayden Hurst from the Ravens, who have, as you know, have tons of tight ends.
First-round pick on
I know.
him,
They
though.
got tons of tight ends coming out of there, you know what. So they get Hayden Hurst in the Ravens' 2024 round pick, and Baltimore gets the Falcons' second-round pick this year and a fifth-round pick this year. Yeah, I have this open right here. That is for Hayden Hurst. Atlanta's 47th overall, right there in the middle of the second round. Phillip Rivers apparently already chit-chatting with the Colts. That's something that we were expecting to see materialize. That's materializing right now.
Yeah, Mike Giardi reporting the Tampa Bay Bucks have made their intentions to Tom Brady loud and clear.
Okay, there you have it. I will be joining Mike Giardi and the rest of NFL Network at the top of our, I guess, 4 o'clock Eastern. We're off the air in just a few minutes here. I got lost. I know you looked at me like, "What are you talking about, Rich?" Hey, I got 3 more hours to do on NFL Network from 4 to 7 Eastern. As our buddy from Fox, Jay Glazer, dropped a little Easter egg saying that there's one monster trade still to come involving a wide receiver, right?
Could.
Stephon Diggs tweeted out, "It's time for a new beginning."
Could be that wide receiver.
Dude, if you get him, that's what you want, right? That's what you're talking about.
I want Stephon Diggs if Tom Brady's coming back.
So Cousins signs an extension and Diggs is like, it's time for a new beginning? For who? For what?
Joe Tooney, who just got signed.
Cousins, 2 years, $66 million.
Has anyone gamed the system better than this guy?
Darrelle Revis. I mentioned that when I talked to Peter King.
Yeah.
I said he's the Darrelle Revis of quarterbacks.
But more so. I mean, I think he's made more money than Darrelle.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, quarterbacks get paid more than cornerbacks.
But Darrelle was 1 year.
Well, and then he stuck the Jets for a pretty big one.
Yep.
After
at the end.
After, he held out on the Jets and the Jets blinked.
Made a ton of money with Tampa.
And
made a ton of money and won a Super Bowl with New England.
And of course, then he makes his Super Bowl ring happen with New England as opposed to the Jets. That's great stuff, man. Really love it. Let's sneak in one more call right here. Coach Ballgame in Orange County, California. Let's get Coach Ballgame in. What's up, Coach Ballgame?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to give you a fist bump over the phone. Just listening to your show and you coming in every day, and your message has inspired me. I'm a coach. I coach kids, and I do PE classes and baseball. Everything's shut down, the fields, the schools. So I did a virtual class today.
Attaboy.
And it was a hit, man. I mean, kids from all over the country are throwing socks against the wall and practicing their catching and throwing. And what you're doing is going further than you know, brother.
I appreciate you saying that, and you're inspiring as well. It makes me want to maybe reach out to some people that I know, and because the kids are bouncing off the walls, not just the socks. They literally are bouncing off the walls right now.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the call.
Absolutely. I got 2 girls of my own, and they're running around, so we'll keep them active.
Thanks for the call, Coach Ballgame. Keep calling back. It's pretty neat. Hey, look, as long as we are healthy, knock on wood if you're with me, we'll socially distance ourselves here.
We'll be here.
And we'll do this. Tomorrow, Coach Ed Orgeron is first up. We'll talk to him about how everything has affected the program of the national champion LSU Tigers. See how often he's talked to Joe Burrow. He put out a video about social distancing. We need to do that. Everybody stay home. We'll be here for you tomorrow from 12 to 3 Eastern, and I'll be there for you on NFL Network in about an hour. For all of us here, thanks to Brent Musburger, Peter King, John McClain, and the radio station you're listening to. Thank you for being here.